Good Thursday afternoon and welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you for the next 3 hours. Thank you so much for joining us. Busy Thursday coming your way here on 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to be a part of the show. You can chime in on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And in the comments on our YouTube live stream, if you wanted to subscribe to the YouTube channel, we'd love that as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel. Coming up here on the program today, we will get to the Chiefs and Bengals build-up and the fact that based on some talk, some chatter over the last 24 hours or so, this one feels a little bit personal. I don't think it was just fans that had this game circled from the very beginning of the year. I feel like some players on both sides of the aisle were ready to go for this one from the very beginning. We had some chippiness from Justin Reid of the Chiefs yesterday. Now I've got some chirping back from the Bengals side today. I feel like if you are a football player, being told you don't watch film is pretty insulting. I would have to imagine that's near the top of the bulletin board material list.
That's a jibe you can't resist retorting about. Of course I watch film. You're telling me I don't do my job.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, I'm sure, takes a lot of offense to that.
What do you mean I don't watch film?
So Jamar Chase had some thoughts on some comments by Justin Reid yesterday. And I got to be honest with you. I don't know if Jamar Chase is fully right, but he might have a little bit of a point. We're going to get to all that coming up here in just a few minutes as the buildup gets bigger and bigger for Chiefs versus Bengals coming up this weekend. Also this hour, Rick Peterson is going to stop by for our Envista Credit Union High School Whiparound. Pistol, of course, covers all things prep sports for TopSports.news. High school basketball, well, for one program, it actually begins today. But for most programs around the city and around the state, it begins tomorrow. So we'll do our high school basketball preview with Rick Peterson coming up at the bottom of the hour. Jake is going to stop back in the studio coming up next hour for Crosstalk, top of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also get to the expanded playoff in college football. I don't like it. Dan doesn't like it. I know that for certain. I don't think I'm ever going to come around to liking it.
I know I never will.
And I just saw this tweet a moment ago. The point is not, well, just because you don't like it, you're still going to watch. That's not the point.
Yeah,
that's not the point.
It's my job to watch as much sports as I'm able to watch. Of course, I'm going to watch the 5 seed play the 12 seed. Yes, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch all of it. I like college football very much. But that has nothing to do with whether or not the playoff is a good idea.
So we'll get to that whole topic coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk headlines in the 5 o'clock hour. We've got our Thursday night football preview and parlays back. Didn't have them last week. We didn't have a show last Thursday because of the Thanksgiving holiday. And, of course, it's a Thursday during the Chiefs season. That means we're going to be talking to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's coming up at 5:35 today. And we'll, again, be taking your comments and your texts throughout the show here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's start it off, though, with the Chiefs and the Bengals. And this is feeling a little bit personal. It feels like both teams really have had this game circled. They've been focusing on it on the schedule. Now, the Bengals have a tougher end to the season schedule-wise than I believe the Chiefs do. And we went over this earlier in the week.
In fact, I think it's the toughest.
Is it?
From this point forward, I think they have the number one strength of schedule remaining of any team in the NFL.
They've got to face the Chiefs, the Browns with the nasty man, at the Buccaneers, at the Patriots, then the Bills and the Ravens to end the season. That's difficult. That is a very challenging schedule. We've been over what the Chiefs' schedule looks like. They play the Broncos twice. They've got the Raiders again.
The Texans.
God, what a waste of a game. Just give it the 2-0 score and be done with it. And they've got the Seahawks, which should at least be something of a game. This is the biggest game left by a mile for the Chiefs. You can understand why it means a lot to them because they also, as we've talked about, lost to them twice last year, regular season and postseason, for a trip to the Super Bowl. For the Bengals, though, this is, I think, kind of a prove it game to a degree. You know, the postseason game was that as well. But all year it's been the Chiefs are the favorites or are among the favorites to get to the Super Bowl, to return after a 1 year absence. I would imagine a lot of Bengals players say, hey, we were there last year.
Yeah,
this was us last year.
We are the AFC champions, the reigning AFC champions. And I do think that has gotten overlooked a little bit this year. So I think that they are coming into this week embracing that role of being the underdog or being the forgotten conference champion. People think it was a bit of a fluke that they went through last year, that they had to catch a lot of breaks to win a game where Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times and win a game where they fell behind 21-3 on the road. Like, a lot had to go wrong for those other teams, but the Bengals had to make a lot of things go right. And they did those things, and they wound up playing on football's grandest stage. And it's mostly the same team back this year. So I don't blame them for feeling a little bit aggrieved and maybe feeling a little bit shortchanged and feeling as though they have been overlooked so far this season. From the Chiefs' perspective, let me just say this. I mean, I watch the Chiefs every week. My wife's a huge Chiefs fan, but like, I don't have any long-term emotional connection to the Kansas City Chiefs. And even I, every now and then, will randomly out of the blue think, man, I can't believe the Chiefs lost that game to the Bengals last year in the AFC Championship game. Like, I can't believe that happened. And if it bugs me,
who doesn't have that connection,
who wasn't on the field, if it's still a thing that's stuck in my craw that much, 10, 11 months later, you think it bothers the Chiefs? I think it really bothers the Chiefs. We've said it multiple times coming into this week that this is the red letter game for the Chiefs this year, to prove not only that they're top dogs in the AFC, you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now it's the Bengals holding that crown, but it's a chance to right a wrong and prove that they are a different team than the one last year that got stuck in neutral on offense in the second half of that AFC Championship game. I absolutely believe this is personal in a way that I don't think even the Buffalo game was. I don't think any of the division games are. Don't get me wrong. I think the Chiefs are appropriately hyped to play good competition. They always get fired up, it seems, to play that level of competition or that important of a game. But this one even feels like there's a little extra, and it's totally understandable.
So yesterday, during locker room availability, Justin Reed was talking about was asked about what he would have done differently had he played for the Chiefs last year when they took on the Bengals. And he mentioned a couple of different numbers of players, 85, 88. 85 is T. Higgins. 88 is new tight end Hayden Hurst. He goes on to clarify when he says, I'm going to lock him down. He meant to say Hayden Hurst, but he also mentioned T. Higgins and then just comes out and says, we're going to shut down the whole group. That doesn't matter who. We're going to shut that group down. Well, Jamar Chase jumped into the replies to the tweet of that video by PJ Green, who works for Fox 4 in Kansas City, and says, why don't we make a wager on it? And then they go back and forth a little bit, and fans are obviously piling on this too. Then today, Jamar Chase suggests that if, based on Justin Reed giving out a bunch of different names, a bunch of different numbers, this dude must not watch film. If he thinks we're going to get shut down, he must not watch the film. He doesn't even know who he's talking about out there. We've got a comment from the YouTube comment section, our guy Vance, who says, I know a rivalry can't be formed in a year or two, but the matchup between us and the Bengals, us being the Chiefs in this case, has that type of feeling to it. I had the same feeling earlier today. And I think, honestly, if the Bengals win on Sunday, that only gets strengthened. Because the Bengals like to talk. They got a lot of confidence, especially their offense, and deservedly so. It's a really good offense. Joe Burrow has never lacked that. He's not quite cocky, but he's very confident in himself and in his team. Jamar Chase obviously has a lot of confidence. I sort of feel like if the Bengals win this week, that becomes the number one rivalry in the AFC for the Chiefs.
Because they're the team that the Chiefs would not have beaten in a big game. Because everybody else who has played them tough, the Chargers play them tough, the Chiefs win most of those games. The Bills have played them tough, but they've never been to a Super Bowl, in part because the Chiefs beat them in an AFC championship game. The Titans play them tough, but the Chiefs won the one of those that really mattered, the AFC championship game. If the Bengals can rip off a third straight win against the Chiefs, then they, as much as anybody else, more so than anybody else, can claim, hey, you know what? The AFC now and in the future goes through us. Don't look at record. Don't look at history. Right now, we're those guys. We're those dudes. They can say that, and they can say it with credibility, and, oh, yeah, that would get under the skin of the Kansas City Chiefs, 100%. So I think you're right. I think there's juice no matter what. Okay. I think there's juice even if the Chiefs win. I mean, if the Chiefs are able to go to Cincinnati and win on Sunday, I do think that's a separator for them, again, when it comes to the conversation of who are the best teams, who are the Super Bowl contenders in the league. Mm-hmm. But the Bengals will still be able to say, well, you got to win the one that counts. Because the last time we played the one that really counted at the end, that was us. We were those guys, and we did it in your house. We wiped our feet on your rug, and we took the trophy with your founder's name on it in your house.
We stamped mud into your couch.
So a win on Sunday, I do not believe would represent closure necessarily for the Chiefs, because they know they still hold the trophy that has Lamar Hunt's name on it.
And they could meet again in the postseason.
Sure they could.
There's a very real chance that they could meet again in the postseason. Here's where Justin Reid being the catalyst for all this becomes a little bit problematic for the Chiefs. We mentioned this a week or two ago now on the show, but we didn't really dive into it. There's an argument that Justin Reid has really not had a good first year with the Chiefs, at least in terms of coverage ability. This was tweeted out by a gentleman by the name of Andrew Russell, who is it's a podcaster, a blogger, I believe, who's a Bengals guy. But he tweets out in response to these Justin Reid comments that Reid has allowed 75% of targets into his coverage zone. So when he is the closest defender, 75% of targets to be caught this year for a 114.4 passer rating. We generally consider for a quarterback, if you break 100, you're really good. That's a really good number to break. It's kind of an arbitrary stat. It doesn't really tell you a ton, but generally speaking, if you break 100, you're doing really well. Reid is allowing a rating of 114.4, and his PFF grade in coverage of 60.0. That ranks 42nd out of 50 safeties this year. 84th percentile. That's not good. That's, in fact, really bad.
I will offer this as counterpoint in defense of Justin Reid. I think the role he's asked to play in the Chiefs defense is one that you notice him if he's either making something good happen or if something very bad has happened on his watch. And Justin Reid's not making a ton of plays. I think that's a fair way to characterize his first season to this point.
Yeah.
Is he has not been the guy to come up with the fumble recovery or the forced fumble or the interception. Still waiting for his first interception as a Chief. We haven't noticed him in that way. Like the guy he replaced, Tyrann Mathieu, you would notice him in that way. He would make those plays. He would come out with a pick or he'd come up with a fumble recovery. He would be in that vicinity, and in his prime, he was making those plays. That's what the Honey Badger did at his very best. We haven't gotten that kind of impact from Justin Reid to date as a Chief. That is entirely fair criticism. That being said, I am hard-pressed, to be fair, to remember a moment so far this season in the first 11 games where I have thought, oh, God, Justin Reid, what are you doing? Oh, man, where was Justin Reid on that play? Why is Justin Reid 30 yards behind the wide receiver? Oh, no, Justin Reid fell down. Oh, no, Justin Reid missed this tackle in open space, and a 10-yard run turned into an 80-yard run. Like, there hasn't been a lot of that from Justin Reid. I think he's executed the assignment, kept plays in front of him, done a lot of the things you like from a safety. That being said, those coverage numbers are not flattering.
No.
And if I perceived my weakness to be in coverage, I would not be talking about locking anybody down if it were me. Now, Justin Reed's got to do whatever Justin Reed's got to do to get himself fired up to play Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't as personal for him as it is for the rest of the Chiefs. He wasn't there in Arrowhead Stadium last January, losing the AFC Championship game. He wasn't part of this group.
Well, let's also be realistic, too, about the big games Justin Reed has played in. Remember where he was before Kansas City?
Houston.
You know how many big games that Houston had played in the last 4 years?
I can remember one.
Yeah. Not many, and not many that went well either. So, it's a little bit different for him. And you could also make an argument, not that this necessarily makes Reed look better, but maybe is a better angle for the entire secondary. Maybe Reed's just the weak link of the group. Realistically, I mean, look at the corner. Maybe the middle of the field, maybe the areas where Justin Reed are just where opposing teams want to target more often because the rest of the group is playing really well. Trent McDuffie has established himself as an NFL starter right off the rip.
We haven't seen a whole lot of those go balls down the sidelines against the Chiefs so far this year. I'm trying to think of the ones that we have seen. Mostly they were the Chargers.
We have two different texters right now who both say effectively, well, at least he's not Dan Sorensen. Two different texters.
At the same time.
One who said same couldn't be said for Dan Sorensen, and the other from the 785 says at least he's not Sorensen.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
For a safety, though, that's what you either notice them when they're doing Tyrann Mathieu stuff and being the honey badger and taking the ball away, or you notice them when they are waving their arms, frantically pumping their arms, trying to catch up with the wide receiver who they are 10 yards away from. Like, that's when you notice the safety, particularly in the coverage schemes that the Chiefs run. Like, they don't bring guys into the box and have them make a whole ton of impactful plays like in the running area. That's the linebackers clean those up. So there's not like a Cam Chancellor, so to speak, in or a Troy Polamalu or a more contemporary example. There's no Talanoa Hufanga in this secondary, this safety group for the Chiefs. So being anonymous, going about your work and doing it anonymously is actually not a terrible outcome for a Chief safety. If we're not talking about Justin Reed, that's probably okay. It would be nice to be talking about him more positively.
Yes.
But we are not talking about him negatively, and that's probably okay. That's probably acceptable in the role he is asked to fill in this particular defense.
One other thing I want to bring up before we get to a break, though, about this matchup. We talked yesterday about how good Joe Burrow has been lately. He's been rock solid. 114.4. That's the passer rating allowed by Justin Reed. You know what else it is? The passer rating for Joe Burrow this season with at least 2.5 seconds in the pocket. Joe Burrow, when his offensive line has won their matchups, this is based on ESPN's pass block win rate stat, which I think is a pretty good statistic. And we haven't used it in a while, but for a refresher, it's when an individual or the offensive line as a whole holds up in protection for at least 2.5 seconds. That is what ESPN's statistics department considers a win. Alternately, if you get past the offensive line in under 2.5 seconds, that's a pass rush win for that particular metric. So when the offensive line for the Bengals this year has given Joe Burrow at least 2.5 seconds in the pocket, passer rating of 114.4, that's the best in the NFL. Completing 72% of his passes, best in the NFL. 9.4 yards per attempt, best in the NFL. And they're converting first downs 41% of the time in those situations. That is, you guessed it, best in the NFL. When Joe Burrow has gotten time, and this is the last 2 seasons, that's not just this year, that's last year as well. When Burrow has had 2.5 seconds to throw the ball, he has been statistically the best quarterback in the league, even better than Mahomes. Now, Mahomes is different because you don't need time with Mahomes. He can make it happen one way or the other. And the Chiefs' offense is built better than the Bengals' offense is built.
That's also true.
It is a smarter offense, I think. Now, the Bengals have been better in that regard recently, but on balance, the Chiefs have a smarter offense where you don't need a time necessarily. It helps, but you don't need it. But that is a scary number for the Chiefs' defense because it tells me if you can't win with your pass rush, your defensive backs are in big trouble. And that's what worries me about this matchup. The defensive line has been really good as of late for the Chiefs, but this is your biggest test yet. And the defense as a whole has been really good. This is their biggest test, yes, though, against this quarterback.
Yeah, no question about it. You have to be able to win with your pass rush, and you have to be able to win with 4 in the early downs, especially. Now, you get into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. I think there will be some pretty creative blitzes that the Chiefs try and dial up, and then it'll be up to those corners. Can they make the plays on those slot fades? Can they make the play on those deep sideline routes that the Bengals love to throw so much? Because if they can't, then we could see another day that looks like, I don't know, that we're going to see 266 receiving yards for Jamar Chase like we did in the regular season meeting last year. But I mean, T. Higgins went over 100 in the AFC Championship game last year after the Chiefs had figured out a little bit how to handle Chase better after they got eviscerated by him in that first meeting. For that to be avoided, you're going to have to win with your pass rush. You're going to have to get pressure, move Joe Burrow off his spots. And when you have a chance, don't miss. Get him on the ground. That's how you beat the Bengals. That's been the recipe now going on 2 seasons. He's got great numbers when they give him time. They haven't given him enough, which is why we maybe don't consider the Bengals in that elite offensive class despite all the talent that they have. The opportunities are going to be there to put pass rush pressure on Burrow, but it has to happen on early downs with 4. That or Spagnuolo may have to roll the dice and send some blitzes on early downs, which he hasn't typically done a whole lot of. But opponent like this might be time to do some tendency breaking things like that.
We'll talk more about this matchup coming up with Jake in Crosstalk, top of the 4 o'clock hour and bottom of the 5 o'clock hour with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. Right now, though, we've got to take a break. We'll play a little either or over under coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. We're back on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on a Thursday afternoon. Rick Peterson of TopSports.news is going to join us later this hour for the Envista Credit Union High School Whiparound, do a little high school basketball preview around the city. Right now, though, it's time for some either or over under. Admittedly, this is a little bit hard to wedge into this topic, but I'm not sure where else this is going to come up. The Prince and well, I don't really know if I guess she's not really a princess. She's the Duchess, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. William and Kate, they were in Boston this week.
Yeah.
They went to the Celtics game last night.
Yes, they did.
I don't know if you saw any highlights of this, but at one point after a Jason Tatum 3, Prince William leans over to his wife and goes, "He's good." Like, yes, welcome to the 2022 NBA season. An NBA game or the field, what would be the most awkward place or just out of place to see British royalty at a U.S. sporting event? Is it an NBA game?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they're a little more familiar with the gridiron football over there. We've been sending it to London for the better part of a decade now.
And also, in an NFL game, they're sitting in a box. They're, among the wine and cheese crowd. And I know that's kind of what courtside seats are at an NBA game, but I feel like it's a little bit of a different way to consume a game.
Yeah, no, that's true. Two other options here. Number one, ice hockey. Like, imagine William and Kate like on the glass at Rangers Bruins, wearing Igor Shesterkin jerseys and pounding the glass during a fight. That would be rich.
I would love to hear a British royal pronounce Zdeno Chara. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they'd make it sound really good. The other one, which is the one that I really don't think they understand. Like, I think they get by and large, like, they've got the Premier League. They understand passion and zeal for professional sports. The college football thing would blow their mind. Like, let's send them to Tuscaloosa. Let's send them to Death Valley.
Yeah, among pro sports, I think the NBA is kind of like a sore like rappers sit and Spike Lee sit front court or courtside at NBA games. Like, the Duke and Duchess golf clapping the entire time for Jason Tatum, really out of place. College sports, though, would be a different beast.
I'd be like, so these are children. Well, no, they're young adults. They're students, you say, and they play sports, and 90,000 people want to watch it in a stadium,
and they're giving you the finger the entire time. You dared to wear orange at Bryant-Denny Stadium, you're getting the finger the entire time.
It's, the rest her soul, but the Queen doing the wave at the baseball game in Naked Gun. I want you to imagine William and Kate as the third quarter ends at Camp Randall Stadium in Madison,
jumping around.
What is everyone doing?
Oh,
do we have to do this?
Okay, similar question. What is the most awkward stadium event for the British monarchy to participate in? Jump around's a good one.
Yeah,
that's right at the top.
Because I feel like they could Wabash decently.
They probably could.
They pick up on the Wabash, I think, pretty quick.
William trying to wave the wheat would be hilariously awkward.
He's pretty skinny, isn't he?
He doesn't look super athletic, just in general.
Kind of gawky.
He's also showing off a lot of the chest sizzle last night. Like, dude, put that away. No one asked for that. Yeah, that would be a real awkward hand movement, I think. Man, I think jump around might be the answer. I'm trying to think of other like physical activities that are sports traditions in the college ranks.
In the college ranks. I'm legitimately shocked that nobody's adopted, they call it the Poznan. It's very big in soccer, where the fans put their arms around each other and turn their backs to the action and just jump up and down in waves. There was a Polish club, Lech Poznan, who invented that. And then there are some other clubs, most notably Manchester City, whose fans do it. And I'm a little surprised that hasn't made its way to the United States yet.
I mean, we steal all those other traditions.
We do. We've absolutely, everyone in the world has ripped off the Iceland clap.
I love when people call that a tradition at Vikings games. They stole it like 4 years ago.
Yeah. Shamelessly.
It was the last World Cup.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
When Iceland was participating? But yeah, if you didn't see clips of the Royals there, it looked really awkward. Like, they had no idea what. Oh, okay. Matt on the YouTube comment says the cornhole championships. For real, though, like, send the Royals to professional bowling. They would have no idea what was happening. Those people go nuts for pro bowling. Pete Weber screaming, "Who do you think you are? I am."
I got to admit, and I bet I'm not alone in this, I had heard last night, the Royals are at the Celtics game, and I thought, I hope Bobby Wood Jr. is having a great time.
What is Vinny Pasquantino doing in Boston?
Vinny Pasquantino, like, like the New York Jets' #1 ambassador right now.
Really? You a Jet guy?
Big Jet guy.
Is he from New Jersey?
Yeah, I think he's from out there. Yeah,
I should have assumed.
big Jet guy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, the name was Pasquantino. Oh, he's from Virginia. Okay.
Northern Virginia, and you don't want to root for the cesspool that is Dan Snyder's NFL team.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that completely. What do you have?
How many Christmas trees is too many? Over under 1.5.
Over, but it's like way over. So you and your wife have 2 trees at your house.
Yes. So this is our first Christmas living together as husband and wife, and she has traditionally had an upstairs tree, and the upstairs tree we got out, we decorated last night. The cat tried to tear it down, the whole thing. Now we have added a downstairs tree this year, and we put up some more like different kinds. Like we have a very basic ornament layout for the top tree. The basement tree is for more like fun ornaments, kitschy collector's items. I got all my like Hallmark athlete ornaments down there. You can see them if you go to my Twitter at Dan Lucero Show. You can see all of the athletes that are hanging from the tree down there. Like we got like a Caddyshack ornament, an ESPN ornament, Simpsons ornaments, little kitschy things like that. But yes, 2 trees. I don't think 2 is too many. I think that there are, here's my stance. I don't think there's a number that's too many if you're willing to put them up and take them down. If you want to go through that work, go for it, by all means. And if you got enough rooms in your house, by all means, do it. Be as Christmassy as you'd like.
So Abby and I don't have a ton of space. We still live in an apartment, but when I grew up, and my family still has 2 trees. They have the upstairs tree in the front window, which has a lot of the nice ornaments and the colored lights, and that's what you can see from the sidewalk from the road. And then downstairs in the basement, where it's carpeted, the heavier ornaments go, like the Hallmark ornaments or the goofier ones. Those go on the downstairs tree. So I've always, my whole life, had 2 trees. So I think 2 is totally fine. If you want to put 3 up, go for it. I mean, shoot, I guess when I was a kid, we had 2 trees, basement, living room, and then my sisters and I all had little trees in our room with like our personal ornaments on them. So yeah, as long as you're willing to take them up and put them down, go for it.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. There's no such thing as being too Christmassy. Real quick, before we take a break, I know we've got to talk to Rick Peterson for our high school Whiparound. We'll do that in just a little bit. Tough one for me last night in the world of sports wagering. My K-State money line bet last night. Yikes. Tough one for the Tang gang.
That was a tough one.
Tough one for the Tang gang last night. We'll get to that in headlines at 5 o'clock hour. Talk a little more college hoops. But what if that could have been a no-sweat bet?
That would have been nice.
That would have been nice.
You could have applied your wager to something else today.
Yes. That's why
maybe
now,
the KU game tonight.
Yes, exactly. That's why now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just sign up with my promo code Lucero. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props. And with live betting, you get updated odds on games that have already started. All in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So sign up today with promo code Lucero for your no-sweat first bet. That's Lucero. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. Refund issued is non-withdrawable free bets. Expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
Rick Peterson joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for the Envista Credit Union High School Whiparound here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and now Rick Peterson joining you here. Pistol covers all things prep sports and Washburn sports for TopSports.news. You can find him on Twitter as well, at Peterson_Rick. Pistol, are you ready for the high school basketball season?
Yes, most definitely. The thing is, when the seasons overlap and I'm trying to get all the players to watch and things like that and all that, my job actually gets a little easier when the games actually start. So I'm ready.
You and I had a conversation last week, right before the holiday, and I want to bring it to the air here because I think it's, we talked about the split up of the leagues and the realignment so much when it came to football, but I think there's a potential outcome here for basketball, Pistol, where you have even more games and you have games multiple times a night where you might end up with an even harder time for a lot of people to follow the schools they care about or their kids or whatever over the course of the basketball season. And I think there's a real possibility we feel the realignment even more with basketball than we did with football.
I agree, and I am concerned. I'm concerned for several reasons. I'm concerned for the parents that have to, get off work early and drive all the way to the Kansas City area. I'm concerned for the lack of rivalries that we're going to have moving forward. I've always loved those city-county rivalries, and I'm worried about that. And, we'll see. We'll know a lot more at this time next year than we do right now, but I am very concerned.
Well, let's start with some of the good stuff here because there are a lot of teams to talk about. A lot of teams that went to the state tournament last year are going to be state contenders this year, state champions, obviously. Let's start on the boys' side of things, and let's start in Class 5A. Seaman, Topeka West, Highland Park, they all made it to state last year. Obviously, Seaman comes away with their first state championship in program history. Let's run through the 5A boys right now, Pistol, and we'll throw Shawnee Heights in there as well. They sputtered at the end of the year, but that's still a very talented and obviously well-coached program under Ken Darding. What do you make of the trajectory for all four of those teams this year?
Well, Seaman obviously lost some very good players, but they got some good players coming back. I think Shawnee Heights is still going to be young, but they're still going to be good. I've been out to see West a couple of times. I like what they're doing, and I love the way Rick Bloomquist coaches. The only problem with that is they got to find a way to take up for 27 points a game and a bunch of rebounds that they lost with Elijah Brooks. But and then I expect Highland Park to be just lights out.
That is going to be, I would imagine, Pistol, one of the favorites to win state in 5A, just because they've got, they made it to state last year, same coach, same coaching staff, and so many of the same players as well. I would imagine Highland Park just overall is one of the teams to watch to make it back to state, but to win the whole thing this year.
Yeah, they're front line. I mean, the first 5-6 players are just awful good. Now, I'm not sure how deep they are. We'll have to see that, but I know Bo Aldridge's, Trey Richardson's, and Jamar Cannon's, and Quentin Adams. I don't think there's a better 4 out there.
We're talking to Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. It's the Envista Credit Union High School Whiparound here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out all of Pistol's great work over at TopSports.news covering our local teams. Let's get to the other teams from around the city here. We'll do 6A and 4A with Hayden, which made it to state last year and had a very impressive run through the postseason. Meanwhile, Washburn Rural and Topeka High at different levels, I think, of their progression, but you've got new coaches at both of those schools. Second year for Dwayne Paul at Hayden. What do you make of some of the storylines for the other boys teams in the city?
Well, I think Hayden will be good again. I love the fact that Joe Otting is still there, still playing basketball, because I think he's we all know him for football, but he's a heck of a basketball player. Jake Muller's a heck of a basketball player, and I think they're going to still be good, and I think they can be a factor in 4A again. High, it's going to take some time. I mean, Gio's one of the 5, I think it is, new coaches in the county, and they're going to be very young. They got a couple of seniors. They lost when B.J. Kennedy decided that he's going to be unable to play. That's a big loss for them. But I think they're going to. I'm looking forward to seeing them. They get busy early. They play tonight. They play Saturday, and then I think they play next Tuesday against St. Mary's Academy. So we'll know a lot more than we do now. But I think they're just going to have to be patient. Washburn Rural, kind of the same way. They got Jack Batchelor to build around, which is a very good start. And then with a new coach, they're just going to have to see who fits what he wants, what Alex Hutchins wants going forward. They're going to be competitive. Their record wasn't very good last year, but they were still competitive. So we'll see.
Pistol, I got to see Alex Hutchins' team at Hayes the last couple of years while I was working up in Northwest Kansas, and he had that program really ticking, 20-plus wins each of the last, I believe, 3 seasons. And he comes to Washburn Rural. What's your opinion of what you've gotten to know and see from him, and how quickly do you think he can mold Washburn Rural into the kind of maybe contending program that it was under Kevin Muff at its height?
Yeah, and I think they'll be very competitive out of the gate. I think I was out of their practice too, and I like what he's doing. He's got a good assistant in Dave Meskey. I think they're going to be good. Now, then it's just case, like you say, getting the personnel he wants and making the steps to get where they were at Hayes. But I think they'll get there. I think this will be a good year. And, Jack Batchelor is going to have a good year, which he will. But other than that, I think they'll be competitive this year, and then maybe in a year or two be ready to, be challenging for state and state spots and things like that.
Rick Peterson joins us here on 580 Sports Talk for the Envista Credit Union High School Whiparound. You can follow Pistol on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. And, of course, go follow all of his great work covering all of our city and county teams over at TopSports.news. Let's flip over to the girls' side here, Pistol. We can dive into some of the more specifics as the weeks go on. I mean, we only have a handful of games here at the very start of the season. But on the girls' side, we've got to start with Washburn Rural, the defending champs in Class 6A. And you want to talk about a team that brings a lot back. They lose Emma Krieger, who is obviously such an important piece for them, not just offensively, but especially on the defensive side. I think one of the best on-ball defenders we've seen in the entire area in recent years. But they bring back so much with Brooklyn DeLay, Zoe Canfield, Jada Ingram, who I thought really had a breakout year last year. They've got so many pieces coming back. And not to put too much pressure on that program, but they're going to be counted on to be, I think, a state contender, if not a title contender, once again this year.
Well, they will now, unless something's changed since the last few days. Jada Ingram is not out.
Okay,
so that does change things a little bit, but they're still going to be good. They got DeLay, they got Zoe Canfield, who I think will have a better year than she had last year, and she had a really good year last year. And I like Mariah Lutz. Mariah Lutz can kind of shoot the 3-2 and take some pressure off of Zoe. They got Chloe Carlgren, who's a good athlete. So, yeah, they're ranked number 1 in the KBCA preseason poll, and I think for good reason.
Let's get to a couple other teams, one of whom made it to state, one who has been there plenty recently, but came up just short last year. Topeka High and Seaman, two teams that have obviously been really darn good for several years now. For Topeka High, new head coach, obviously Brittany Redmond taking over the program for Hannah Alexander, another Topeka High alumnus. They've still got plenty of talent back, and that starts obviously with one of the best players in the state in Kiki Smith. Meanwhile, Seaman still has a bunch of youth, but a lot of experience after last year. Anna Becker, one of the best players in the city. Talon Stahlbaumer's been a very good two-guard the last couple of years. They're a little bit thinner because Ava Esther unfortunately tore her ACL during the volleyball season. They have a little less depth in the front court as well. Megan Mills deciding not to go out for basketball this year. But what is it going to take, Pistol, for both of those programs to be in the mix to get back to state as well this year?
I think both of them will be in the mix. Let's go high first. I was out of practice, and Brittany Redmond, she runs a tough practice. She was getting on them, and she wanted them to do what she wanted, and I liked that. And I think with a group like that, with Kiki and Addison Carroll and Faith Shields and some of those, you can do that. And I think they're going to be good. Rural's playing as we speak, and High plays in a couple hours. So we'll see what happens in the season openers. And then, I think Seaman's going to be really good. It does. They're going to have to, girls like Gormley and some of those are going to have to take up the slack inside because those two you mentioned were both inside big girls. But, Anna Becker, I think, will be, even better than she was last year and had a sensational freshman year. And I'm hearing that they got a couple of freshmen this year that could step in and really help them.
Yeah, I was
Go
ahead, Pistol.
No, I was just that's I'm hearing that they got a couple of freshmen that could be immediate impact.
Yeah, and sorry to jump in front. I was just going to say, I was just talking to Matt Tinsley earlier today. We'll be at Seaman versus Lansing. Fulton Castard and Larry Latimer will be on the call, that one for our game of the week coming up tomorrow night. And he was telling me, Matt Tinsley, that, yeah, they've got a freshman class that he's got a lot of hope for, a lot of optimism with. I do want to get to the other teams in the city real quick. We haven't yet touched on Highland Park, Shawnee Heights, or Topeka West from 5A, the Hayden girls as well in Class 4A. What are some of the other storylines you'll be following for that group of teams coming up this season on the girls' side, Pistol?
Well, I think the jury's still out on Topeka West. I want to see what they can do this year. They kind of struggled last year. I think Shawnee Heights, Hayden will definitely be. They're going to be improved. They're going to be. They were right around 500 last year, and I think they're really going to improve. And I think Highland Park's really going to improve. Highland Park made some big steps last year, and they really like Amelia Ramsey, and I think there's some other girls. Let's not. We're not talking state championship, but we're talking taking big steps forward.
And to that point with Highland Park 2, Pistol, I think it helps. One, Amelia Ramsey's a heck of a player. She averaged close to, if not all the way to, a double-double last season as a freshman for that Scots team. And Rob Brown, their head coach, is not taking over 4 weeks before the start of the season this year. He's gotten a full offseason to get more players out, to get his system more in place for this year. That kind of continuity has to be a major benefit for that program.
Yeah, and like I said, in a year where we do have a whole bunch of new coaches, having starting ahead of the game, so to speak, is a big advantage.
Rick Peterson covers all of our local teams better than anybody over at TopSports.news. That's where you can find all of his work. You can follow him on Twitter as well, at Peterson_Rick. He joins us every Thursday here on 580 Sports Talk for the Envista Credit Union High School Whiparound. Where are you headed to for the season opening basketball weekend, Pistol?
I'm at Seaman tomorrow night, and then, I already have a big game on Tuesday with Seaman and Topeka West. So we got some good games coming up early. Yeah,
we have some fantastic ones on the schedule. Fulton and Lat, we'll see you then, Pistol, and we will talk to you coming up next Thursday.
Okay, thanks a lot.
That is Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. Yeah, a lot of really good matchups for our city teams coming up this first weekend, which that's all you can really ask for, is when you don't really know a whole lot, maybe you have a few names that still linger from last year, get some good high-profile matchups. That is the best way to start off a high school basketball season. We're going to take a break for our national and local news. We've got Crosstalk to lead off next hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you on this first day of December. Thank you so much for joining us. Crosstalk with Jake coming up here in just a second. Also this hour, we've got our What Is Wrong With You for today, first for the month of December. Shout out to the Skeleton Sex House winner for What Is Wrong With You in the month of November. I was talking to color voice of high school hoops here on 580, Larry Latimer, yesterday, I believe it was, and he said he had been listening. He was a big fan of that story. Thought it was very funny. So we did too, and so did everyone else listening in and chiming in on the text line. That was our winner for the month. We've got two news stories going head-to-head today. We'll also talk about expansion for the college football playoff coming up at the bottom of this hour, and as always, we are taking your thoughts, your texts, your takes on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. And you can chime in as well in the comments section on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel. You can leave a comment. We can see all of them. We can get to those. Some of them even will make it to the video stream. So leave your comments there. Sports on 580 WIBW is where we live stream the shows on YouTube every day. But with that, it's time for Crosstalk. We're bringing in Jake LeBon to the show as well, host of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton. What's going on, Jake?
Not a whole lot. Just another day.
Have you been enjoying the football, the World Cup?
I have. I like the World Cup, man.
I know you do.
I don't know. I like it more than the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah. I love the World Cup, man.
Interesting.
Big World Cup guy.
I've been having a little trouble getting into this World Cup. I like it better as a summer event.
Oh, yes. 1,000%. But I'm still into it just because how can you not when you see just everyone cares so much about it?
Because I'm selfish and I don't care that Iranians are excited.
To each their own.
Iranians, excuse me.
I don't know. I just think that like yesterday with Mexico and, trying to get in with Argentina. Like if Mexico just scored a goal, all they needed was one goal. Or like today, if Belgium scored a goal, they're in. And you can just see they want it so bad. I don't know.
Yeah, and the pressure gets to, their main goal guy, Romelu Lukaku, one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, he was Kaku. He was terrible.
Yeah, he fell on his face.
I believe it's Kaká.
Not in a literal sense. No, he played for, I think he was...
Kaká was Brazilian.
Yeah.
Brazilian. No, CACA, not KAKA. Different kind of Kaká.
He was really good, though. He played for Miami or something like that in the MLS.
Orlando. Yeah, he came over to Orlando when his career was over.
Yeah.
His
Real Madrid
career,
Kaká. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited for you guys. I'm glad you are enjoying it.
I get that.
I am excited that it is been proven now that no other nation in the northern half of the Western Hemisphere is messing with the United States in soccer. Canada, go home. How about a goal, Canada?
Yeah.
No, not even a goal, hosers.
I proposed this yesterday. Since the next World Cup is in North America, the U.S. is the last team standing from North America.
Yeah, because Mexico's out too.
The United States should get to steal a city from Canada and Mexico as hosts for next time.
We should just have it all.
So
we should get to steal a city for all intents and purposes. Like we have Vancouver now.
Oh,
Vancouver is in Washington.
Vancouver, okay.
That would be Vancouver. Nice.
See, I was gonna stop at Guadalajara no longer gets the World Cup. Now Kansas City is guaranteed a game.
We get Baja too.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm so
we're just going to
excited.
become more imperialistic and just take stuff.
I'm so
It's been a while since we been a while since we've had a good old fashioned colonialism.
Why did Manifest Destiny go away? Go ask your history.
There were no more worlds left to conquer, and then the ones that we did are going to fall into the ocean.
Can we annex something?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You're ours now. That's not how it works.
There are probably people who are actually asking that question. Have you felt like the build-up for Chiefs-Bengals has been kind of personal?
Yes, and I think it is.
I think, we were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We had a texter, and I had the same thought, and I'm glad we had a texter who brought it up, or a YouTube comment, that, Chiefs-Bills has felt like it could be a rivalry because you got arguably the two best quarterbacks in the conference, and the Bills have been hyped up a bunch. The Chiefs already have their Super Bowl, a lot of head-to-head meetings. It kind of feels like it's actually the Bengals, though, because the Bengals have won the big one over the Chiefs, as Dan pointed out earlier.
Mahomes has never beat the Bengals.
He's never beaten the Bengals.
No, I think it's more so for the Chiefs, not so much for the Bengals.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think it's big for both.
Yeah, it is big it's really big for the Bengals in their standings right now. Because if you can beat the Chiefs, you still play Baltimore one other time. No, I think it is. And you can definitely tell Chiefs player. I think you're going to get Chiefs Bucks type of focus and attitude where they came out and they were clicking. I think this Chiefs team is going to be fired up, ready to go. Like, I think the Chiefs win, and I think they win by more than a touchdown.
You know how the Chargers always come out and play the Chiefs super tough, and it feels like they're the best version of themselves, and it feels like their playbook and their game plan is uniquely wired to beat the Chiefs. Like, it all goes into winning those two games. I wouldn't be surprised this past offseason for the Chiefs has been all about the Bengals. Knowing that they're on the regular season schedule, knowing that they're the top dog in the AFC now, they're the reigning AFC champs.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's a lot of Bengals-only stuff in the playbook on both sides of the ball.
Here's what I really, truly believe. You remember in 2018, Chiefs defense was awful. And they cleaned house. Like, everything changed.
Bob Sutton, gone,
right? The game last year in Cincinnati, look at who was on in the secondary and got worked. Charvarius Ward, gone. Dan Sorensen, gone. Rashad Fenton, gone. Mike Hughes, gone. Every one of those guys who got torched is gone. Everyone in outside of Thornhill is new. Reed at safety, McDuffie, Watson, Snead didn't guard any of those guys because he's in the slot.
Right.
So you look at it, that game is a microcosm to me of the 2018 season. They knew they needed to make a change, and they did. The whole secondary is brand new, except for Juan Thornhill, and he didn't play a whole lot in that game. I think this is a brand new site to even compare last year with Chase, destroying them, and Higgins and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can almost say you can't even look at that film last year because nobody is back in the secondary. It is brand new guys, and I'm so fascinated to see how they are going to stand up against Chase and Higgins and Boyd and Hurst and those. I think it's so interesting.
I think there's a level of excitement that it's something new, and it's, you don't have to see Fenton out there getting cooked or Ward getting cooked by Jamar Chase.
Or not looking for the ball.
Yeah, I think there is something to that. I think the flip side of that, though, it's two-pronged. One, there's a lot of inexperience out there, a lot of talent.
Yeah.
No doubt a lot of talent. I know both of our shows have been very high on the talent of the secondary. They just haven't been in a lot of big games because they're all so young and so inexperienced. The other thing, I brought this up the other day, how many legitimately great receivers, like legit number one type receivers, have the Chiefs faced this year?
And
very few.
How many of them? How many big games have you had? Look, passing attacks. Let's look at passing attacks, right? No Mike Williams in the last game against the Chargers, right?
One catch, yeah.
Yeah, and he got hurt. But look at where this is wild too. The Chiefs, I think, are top 5 in touchdowns allowed via the pass, or they're like top 3. Like, they've given up a lot of touchdown passes, mainly because they're ahead in games and all that. But if you really think, what wide receivers has really cooked them?
Well, they haven't played many guys who I think have that ability. They didn't play against Cooper Kupp.
And the one guy who kind of did, the Bills, they went after Williams. Making his very first NFL game.
Yeah.
And he still was in okay shape. Those are just two really good throws by Allen when they threw it to Gabe Davis and then to Stephon Diggs. So they've done a nice job.
But then in that, they played Stephon Diggs there. Between playing Diggs and this week, they have not faced a true X number one guy.
Well,
just Keenan Allen.
No, but since the Bills game.
Oh, since the Bills game.
The Bills game.
Yeah,
because that was before the trade deadline too.
Keenan Allen's been the best one they faced. He had a good game. He had that one deep ball catch where he maybe got away with a little bit of a push off there on their final drive.
That's more on more on Spags. What are you doing? One-on-one coverage.
But that's what it's going to be, especially in third and longs. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be those outside corners one-on-one on some deep sideline routes. Chiefs couldn't play those worth a damn last year. Like, that was not a strength for Fenton. That was not a strength for Ward. Those guys got penalized all the time. Can these new guys play those better than the old guys? I think there's some early returns to suggest McDuffie might be able to.
I'm so intrigued by that matchup because it's completely different from last year. It is.
Where would you rank Burrow right now? In like guys who are playing on December 1st, 2022. If you're ranking NFL quarterbacks, where are you putting Joe Burrow right now? Number one's Patrick Mahomes. We all know that.
I would probably. I mean, he's probably 5 or 6.
Really, that low?
Yeah.
Oh, I would
didn't
say
mean to think that up. That was just.
Yeah, that was
No,
nice
no, like 5 or 6.
Really, I would not put him lower than 3.
Do you think he's third
on current
I
form?
think he's second. Like right now, quality of play around the NFL right now. There's a drop from 1 to 2, but to me, it's Mahomes, and then you can put in either order Tua and Burrow, and then after that,
I still think Allen. I'm gonna give Allen the benefit of the doubt until he really starts to struggle.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're ranking like overall who are the best quarterbacks in the league, that's fine. But in terms of like how they're playing recently, the Bills nearly lost to the Lions.
Yeah.
Like
I don't think
he has not been the same Josh Allen since he hurt his elbow.
That is true, but I'm still going to ride with him until he falls off.
Fair enough.
And then I think Tua is playing better than Joe. Tua, I don't know why he's not getting more love on the MVP front. I really don't,
probably because his wide receiver's having a historic year. His number one receiver. That's what I would guess.
Yeah, because the narrative is look at what this new wide receiver has done to enhance Tua's play.
But he's putting up. I mean, that offense is humming. So I would say 5 or 6. Behind Mahomes, Allen, Tua, around that situation.
Okay. I think he's been as good as he's ever been. Now he's only in is this year 3 for Burrow? Yeah, it's only year 3.
Yeah.
I think he looks better than he did last year.
I'm also interested in what they're going to have to do coming up here in the future. They got 3 dudes they got to pay. You got to pay Chase, you got to pay Burrow, and you're going to have to pay. I think T. Higgins is a legitimate. If you think Christian Kirk got that kind of money, what do you think T. Higgins?
Well, they can't pay both of them, and they're going to pay Burrow's college teammate. So T. Higgins is going to make a lot of money from somebody else.
Well, and that's going to affect them because he has been very good.
I was going to say that's, I guess, the question is how much better is Chase than Higgins, and does that justify the amount more that Chase will make than Higgins will make? Because Higgins would be a number 1 on a lot of teams.
Yes.
And somebody's going to pay him that number 1 money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I find that fascinating.
You would think that the Bengals might be proactive and maybe look to trade Higgins this offseason?
Because next year, I believe, will be his last year, or he'll be a free agent after next year. Because he was, remember, what pick was T. Higgins?
34.
The very next pick behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
33 then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's in 2023. So next year is his final year as the Bengals player. They're not going to franchise tag him because that's $25 million for 1 year.
And you're about to give a huge contract to your other wide receiver right after that.
This is going to be interesting to see what the Bengals do. Like,
also, they're cheap, and they've only got like 4 scouts, and they're not a very well-run organization. They've stumbled into this talent, but
hey, they're finally building an indoor facility. 30 years after everyone else did.
Good for them.
They don't have an indoor facility.
Will it have more bathrooms than Russell Wilson's house? I'm gonna guess it will not.
Probably not.
He's got 9?
12.
Man, why do you need that? Why do you need 12 crappers?
If you're Lil Wayne, it's so you can defecate all day. If you've ever listened to We Be Steady Mobbin', you've heard him say that.
He
had 10.
You ready for this? Hot take. Bedroom size is stupid.
Wait, what?
You don't need a big bedroom. You just need a big closet. I firmly believe in that. Give me a bedroom that's got just big enough for a king-size bed, and everything else does not matter. Give me a gigantic closet. I'm never in my bedroom. Ever. Never. I'm in my bedroom for 5 hours a day. That's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that just depends on what you're using it for.
Sleeping.
I was about to ask 5 hours, and I remembered. Oh yeah, you have kids. You don't sleep.
5:30. Gosh, this morning. Oh man, dude.
You don't get to sleep anymore.
No, this week's been rough because Monday I got home at 3:00 in the morning because no one should ever have to go to Tahlequah twice in a month. And then my son decided to get up at 5:15 2 days in a row. Oh,
He's got things to do.
he does. He does.
I got up at 7:30 today and thought, what if I just died? Like, would that be preferable to being awake this early?
Brendan,
What if I just keeled over?
Brendan, here we need to do something here for the year 2022.
For what it's worth, for the record, I went to bed at 3:00.
We need you to come hang out at my house for like 3 days.
See, but I feel like
one
that,
of those old home ec assignments in high school. Like, you've got to take the baby home.
I feel like that wouldn't be like, not that I'm trying to say, hey, I'm inviting myself to move into your house, but like I could make 3 days work. Like
I don't know if you could.
I could
bro.
rest up for the couple days beforehand, and I could just nap whenever I wanted right after. Like, I feel like that's not the full experience.
There is no napping with a 2-year-old.
No, that's my point, though. Like, if I'm only
okay.
coming over for 3 days, like, I can burn. I went to bed at like 4 last night or 2 nights ago.
Who is
like,
this? He's not a real person.
I could make that happen on a short period of time.
That sounds awful. I went to bed at 4. Oh my goodness.
Last night I promised Abby I would come to bed earlier, and I did.
1:30.
I got in bed like 2:40. Yeah, it was like 2:45, 2:50.
You're like he's nocturnal. He's a bat.
I had stuff to do. I prepared for the show. I put together our show. I'm breaking stuff now.
Waving his arms all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I was doing all night. I prepared for the show. I got our show notes all done. I played video games for like 2.5 hours.
What's a video game?
For me, it was
Man, I
Pokemon
don't even
last
have
night.
kids, and my video game playing has gone dramatically south since marriage.
Buddy, I haven't played a video game in forever.
Do you
I had
think-
dessert to
Do you
eat.
think I could balance a baby on my shoulder and play like
0 chance.
2K? No,
No, you could because
You could get the sling.
you could get the sling. You could
Oh.
put him in like the little
Yeah.
chute.
man,
Yeah.
we're in there then.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, you
We're
can
in
do that.
there.
My kids did not like that, so I could not do that.
Well, yeah, you're also at the mercy of will they
Yeah.
lie there?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're SOL.
Fingers crossed.
Real quick before we let you go, we haven't gotten to college basketball yet. We're going to do that during our 580 Sports Talk headlines brought to you by Blue Dot coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. K-State last night, cause for concern or it happened?
No, it happens. Their offense is gonna have bad days. 5 guys combined to go 8 for 38. You can't have that. But that's going to happen because this team has one real good bucket getter. And by the Keanu, what a cool story! Like that's the story of the year. The guy almost died 2 years later. He's right now like averaging 20 a game. He's crushing it. But defensively is the problem. And you can't let Butler out rebound those dudes. Like K-State's got athletic dudes. There, we saw them up close and personal. They got length, they got bounce, and you got out rebounded by Butler. You let them shoot 55%. That ain't good.
This feels very much like a Weber K-State team in one specific way, and they're like a donut. They got a hole in the middle. Like I don't know what they're doing at the 5. Gasson is like all right, but he's not a real 5.
No, he's like KJ Adams. 5.
Yeah, he's like he's a stretch 4, and Naquan Tomlin is a stretch 4, and
he's like this thin, and I'm looking at my finger.
And Bebe can't really play. It doesn't look like look like he's
their
off
biggest
to a
dude
real
is
good
getting
start.
redshirted. Like I wonder if they would have started. God, he was a monster in the game against Washburn.
I know who you're talking
The
about.
big dude, number 20, I believe.
Was it
Colburn or
Colbert?
Yeah.
He was huge, but they're redshirting him, which is the Baylor way. That's what they do.
Yeah,
Well, then you have that option for the future.
Yeah.
And if this was already going to probably be the build up year, not rebuild, but the build up year.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes sense.
No, if you said they're 6-1 through 7 games, I'd have said sweet.
That's their big problem, though. They got an issue at the 5 right now, and that could resolve itself over time. That could get better over time. But last night, that was their big problem. They got baskets. Butler did way too easy at the rim. And
What's his name? The Manny Bates.
Manny Bates.
He had no resistance trying to score.
He made first 8 shots, something like that. Yeah, that you can't. K-State's not going to win a lot of games where they give up 70-plus points.
Here's the nice thing, though, is that you've got athletes. Like, one of the guys that you listed, Dan, like one of those guys you could probably work into a way where you can make it doable at the 5, even if it's not a natural 5-man, you can make it work. You don't have McCole Maween, who is just like, you have to play him because he's your only big dude, but he just sucks.
He wasn't terrible.
Dude, no. I've never seen a worse senior.
It was a Flowers for Algernon thing, I swear, because just junior McCole Maween, legitimately good, starting caliber big man in the Big 12. Senior year McCole Maween, had he ever seen a basketball game before?
That's all of North Carolina's big men, by the way. Like, they stink. They were on TV last night. They played Indiana. They suck. Ugh. Also, Trace Jackson Davis is going to give KU buckets in a couple weeks.
Oh, man. Yeah.
16 days.
That dude is going to eat.
It is going to be rough. Every big man for KU is going to burn through all their fouls. Like, KJ Adams is going to be, hey, if he gets by you, just foul.
No, I agree with
just
that.
do that. Tomorrow, what's coming up on Mic'd Up?
We are going to talk with Landry Burdine, sideline reporter for TCU.
Nice.
Cannot confirm nor deny. I just want to hear LT stories because
Fair.
he played with LaDainian Tomlinson. And then we're going to talk with John Sheehan on all things Bengals.
Okay.
And then we will get to a little Chiefs-Bengals and the K-State versus TCU, Battle of the Purples.
Big football weekend. We'll talk coming up at noon tomorrow.
I know. What do you guys got coming up?
We have What Is Wrong With You coming up after this.
Man, I missed that segment.
Yeah. We will have to come up with a way, because I've thought this since we, redid the programming schedule. We should get Jake and Fulton involved in the championship, I think.
100%. 100%.
The problem is I'm going to be gone on the 28th.
I don't know
No,
what
the 29th of December.
You're gone the 29th of December.
Yeah.
I
just want to be a part of maybe the quarterfinals. I missed that.
Okay, we'll figure out a way. Because we have a show the 30th. So we'll figure it out.
There's some doozies.
Yeah. Did you hear about the skeleton sex house?
I have not.
Yeah, you're gonna like that one. That's a good one. Well, now you have to wait until the end of the month to hear about it. We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon.
Alrighty.
We will take a quick break. We'll come back and we have What Is Wrong With You after this on 580 Sports Talk. Is Wrong With You, the first What Is Wrong With You for the month of December here on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan and Dan. Our November champion was crowned 2 days ago. It was the Skeleton Sex House from Willoughby, Ohio. We have two news stories, though, to open up this month. Dan, I will have you go first today.
We have few What Is Wrong With You rules, but here are two of them. Number one, if any two of the three between alcohol, firearms, and gambling are involved, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And very likely something What Is Wrong With You worthy is going to happen. And number two is if the headline starts with the four words, extremely negligent Florida man, it is definitely going to end up on What Is Wrong With You.
Correct.
So we go to Port St. Lucie, Florida, where a Florida man has been charged with child abuse after police said he irresponsibly handled an AR-15 and accidentally shot his daughter the day before Thanksgiving.
Oh, my God.
35-year-old Daniel Weber was on the couch showing his underage son how to clean his AR-15 when he set it down on a TV tray. Police say the tray tipped over and the gun fired, striking Weber's young daughter in the hip or lower abdomen. She is still recovering in the hospital. Weber told detectives he believed the gun was not loaded at the time. I don't know, maybe check. I don't know.
Okay.
Again,
See, this is what we always have texters or YouTube commenters who's like, this is not a responsible gun. Like, normal gun owners don't do this. That is correct. Like, this is not normal. Like, check. How do you not check that before you're teaching
before
your young
you
son?
clean your gun? Like,
What's in here?
Yeah, like usually when if I am going to clean something, like if I'm going to clean the dresser, I make sure nothing is on the dresser, and then I clean the dresser, like dust the top of it. If I am going to clean something, I make sure that it itself is clean. And if I'm going to clean a gun, I'm making damn sure it's not loaded. But maybe there's a reason he didn't check. He said he was experienced in handling firearms and handled several different types, calibers of firearms for several years. Well, Weber's son told police his father drinks daily and had 5 drinks on the afternoon of the shooting. Weber told police he'd had about 6 beers. Port St. Lucie police said the gun was irresponsibly handled and Weber's actions were extremely negligent. He's been charged with aggravated child abuse, using a firearm under the influence of alcohol, and culpable negligence. Again, neither of us, Brendan and I, not gun people.
No.
I never owned one. Don't have any plans to own one anytime in the near or distant future. That being said, I feel like it would be common sense, A, make sure the gun isn't loaded before you clean it.
Mm-hmm.
B, make sure the gun isn't loaded around your kids. And C, maybe make sure you're not loaded before you try and clean your gun.
This dude is lucky the only thing that happened was a non-mortal wound in his daughter's leg and not him blowing his own face off.
Yeah.
How do you not check? That just blows my mind.
I don't know.
No pun intended.
I think I would quadruple check.
Yeah, man, I quadruple check my pocket to make sure I have my wallet when I leave the house.
Right. I have, how many times I've turned around in my neighborhood and gone back to make sure I closed the garage door before I left for work?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, this dude won't check once to make sure his gun's not loaded.
Around his kids. See, if you don't want to care about your own well-being, whatever, that's on you. But
yeah.
You got small children.
The stakes are pretty high here. You know what guns can do to people.
How old are the kids? That's what I want to know.
We don't know. All we know is underage and young are the only words that are used as descriptors here.
He's 35. They must be pretty young.
The original story from WPTV says they're both minors, both underage. So yeah, that's not any more helpful either. But
insane.
But the son diming out his dad on the drinking.
Yeah, Dad. I got a feeling Dad kind of sucks. If your son's that willing to be like, oh yeah, he eats beer for every meal.
I'm going to show my kids how to clean my gun.
What an idiot. This is extremely negligent.
Time and a place for it, and after 6 beers, not the time.
My story is going to take us to Hawaii. In fact, the big island, the island of Hawaii, and the town, the census designated place of Hilo in Hawaii. A lot of people travel there. There's a lot of beautiful nature, a lot of scenery, a lot of business in Hilo. Here's the problem with an island. it's not easy to hide because it's only so big. I know it is the big island, but it's only so big. That is the issue that Jason Sabino of Hilo ran into when he stole a Chevy Malibu rental car recently. You only have so many places to go. You are on an island. If you go too far, you are going to end up in the ocean. Attorneys for the county of Hawaii stated that Sabino allegedly stole the car on November 24th. He posed as a valet attendant at a hotel on Banyan Drive. According to the prosecutors, Sabino is a repeat felony offender and made his initial appearance on Monday this week. His bail is set at $70,000. That's a lot for a car theft. His charges include theft in the first degree, exert unauthorized control over another person's vehicle, the Malibu.
It says in the story, exert unauthorized control over another person's Chevrolet Malibu, and it makes you feel like that's actually written in as the law.
Like it's very specific law. They got a lot of Malibu theft.
Like if it's a Chevy Cavalier, whatever, but if it's a Malibu, we got a problem.
Unauthorized control of a propelled vehicle in the first degree, and also habitual property crime. This man is a habitual line stepper when it comes to property crime. Again, why are you going to steal a car on an island? Where do you think you're going to hide? It's only so big.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the game plan is there for our guy, but I don't think game planning is really part of his MO. I think he's just, like you said, a habitual line stepper.
We had a story similar to this of a guy who was committing a bunch of crime and a bunch of property theft in the Florida Keys. Buddy, you're on an island. You are isolated. Where are you going to go? There's only a handful of places you can hide your stuff. That does not beat the extremely negligent Florida man, though.
No, it doesn't. And Matt on our YouTube comments makes a very good point. I don't know what the legal system's going to do to our extremely negligent Florida man, but it pales in comparison to whatever his wife / the mother of that girl is going to do to him.
Mm-hmm. This dude sucks.
Yeah, he sucks really bad.
So we now have extremely negligent Florida man. We have in the past had the ultimate Florida man.
Yeah.
Which was the guy who was committing 900 different types of fraud out of his home.
Illegally practicing medicine.
Yeah.
I think he was the mayor, too.
Yeah, he was.
I love the ultimate Florida man story. That's a 2019 story, I think.
2019, I think, is the banner year for What Is Wrong With You. I think that was, up until this year, like the pinnacle of the sport. This year's going to get close, though. Some of the stories we're going to have at the end of this month are absurd.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think a lot of, COVID forced a lot of really stupid people to be inside for a long time. And many of them probably tried to inject bleach and died. So we lost a lot of What Is Wrong With You candidates over the last couple of years.
At one point in time, we had our Hall of Fame, which was literally a piece of scrap paper with some pen on it of the list of our champions. Eventually someone cleaned up the studio, though, and it no longer exists. So we'll have to go back. We need a banner. We can hang. I mean, this is just like particle board ceiling.
Yeah.
We need to hang a banner.
We've got the grilled cheese standoff was our OG winner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forget who won in 2018. Oh, no. Tailpipe Girl won in 2018. 2019 champion was it the guy who stole the Girl Scout cookie money?
Number one dad.
Yeah.
I believe it was.
I think it was the number one dad who won that year.
2020 was the Wrong House Demolition.
Yep.
That was a good one. What won last year?
I gotta go back. The guy who jumped off the bridge during a traffic jam.
Ah, that's right. Yeah. The traffic jam jumper.
And just wait till the end of this year. We're going to bring back some classics and some stories I'm not familiar with because I joined midstream.
I was going to say the first third of the year will be new to you.
Yes.
That's very exciting.
I'm thrilled.
It's only a matter of weeks away. We are in the final month of the year. So our yearly championship coming up at the end of the month. Right now, we've got to take a break. When we come back, the college football playoff is expanding. I can understand why people like it. I don't think I ever will come around to it. We'll explain why coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Mitch Holthus is going to join us coming up next hour to preview Chiefs and Bengals. Do you think Mitch is more of a turkey or a ham guy?
I'm going to guess both, but I bet he leans turkey.
I was going to lean turkey as well. We'll ask him. We'll ask what it is. I also have an update. He wanted me to reach out to my buddy who works for Stats Inc. because he was telling me about how Patrick Mahomes 3 years in a row is potentially going to end up with the exact same completion percentage. And I said, I'll reach out and see if I can get a probability on that. The answer is no. There's not really a way to get the probability of a percentage like that.
Right.
But he did tell me it's likely never happened before.
It's like when Chris Davis, not the Orioles one, the Oakland A's one, had the same batting average and home runs for 3 straight years.
Exactly. So we have an update on our stats research for Mitch coming up this week as well. That's next hour. Right now, we've got to get into this because it is pretty huge news. The college football playoff is expanding, and it will expand starting in 2024. So we have this year and next, I believe it is.
Yes.
For the 4-team playoff, which I never liked in the first place. We knew it was eventually going to expand. To a degree, it's kind of like the designated hitter, which I know if you are listening to the show and you're a Royals fan, you probably already have accepted and embraced for maybe your entire life or most of your life. As a National League guy and a traditionalist, speaking on both of our behalves, don't like the DH. I know a couple of years ago, I think it was probably during the COVID year, I said, all right, it's happening, so I'm going to give up the fight. I'm going to wave the white flag because I know it's going to come.
Yeah, I did. I gave up that ghost. It was probably during the shortened COVID season, and now it's here, and I'm very whatever about it. It exists. I'm not going to rent any more garments. I'm on record as saying it's not real baseball, but whatever.
It's here.
It's what we got.
I think the playoff is a similar thing that we knew. I think a lot of folks knew or expected even when it was announced as 4. That was more of a placeholder than anything, that eventually it was going to become 8 or 12 or 16 or something else. It's here. It was made official. Last night, it was required that the Rose Bowl needed to amend its contract with the playoff to allow the expansion to happen quickly so they didn't have to break a contract and find a new partner or whatever. The Rose Bowl was very hung up on being the Rose Bowl, which I get. Growing up in a place where the Rose Bowl really meant something, I get that. Now that that's been amended, though, it was announced this morning officially the playoff expansion is coming. Why do I want to watch a crappier NFL? I mean that genuinely. Like, the thing about college football that I love and like and appreciate, one, is the fact that I was lucky enough to go to a major Division I university that has a major athletics department. You can keep your jokes to yourself, K-State fans, about the football team. But a major athletic department and a major football team. And I root for that because I chose to go to that school and I have support for that university. But also, it's different. The rules are a little bit different. The way you play the game is how the field's different. You got wider hash marks. You have way different offenses. In some cases, you have way different defenses. You've got different storylines, different ways that the game is called and officiated and coached. It's different. It is celebrated in a different way. You've got bowl games. Conference titles mean something more than division titles do in the NFL, unless you're our old friend Marco Marquez, in which case you buy a shirt every time the Chiefs win the division. Shout out to Marco. Hope you're doing well, pal. I know he's doing well. Great guy. But it means something to go to a bowl. It means something to win your conference, to play for a conference title. Expanding the playoff and now having an NFL-style postseason with 2/3 the length of the NFL regular season is taking away a lot of that. You're taking away a lot of the meaning of that. And so much of the national discussion about college football has already been completely ruined by the playoff, because now you end up with TV broadcasts where middle of the third quarter, 1-score game, hey, what's Georgia doing today? What's your top 4 look like? I don't care. I'm watching an ACC game. Call the game. We're watching North Carolina, Georgia Tech. Don't talk to me about Georgia and Alabama. So much of the narrative has already been ruined This is just becoming a crappier NFL. If I wanted to watch crappier NFL teams, I'd watch the Packers this year, okay? And I do, and I have. Like, I don't need Tulane in the playoff. I like that Tulane's having a great year. I don't need them in the playoff playing against Georgia. I just don't.
I don't know who this is good for other than the conference commissioners and the athletic directors.
Specifically of two conferences.
Yes. And the and the playoff committee, all of whom will get to enrich themselves as schools with unpaid labor send their football players out to play as many as 4 more games. You're talking now, theoretically, a number 5 seed in the college football playoff could play as many games as an NFL regular season, all while making a salary of $0.00. And that is morally reprehensible to me. And I can't support the playoff on that front alone, that we're adding more football for these kids to play for free, while the administrators, while the university presidents, while the presidents of the conferences get fatter wallets. I don't care that this makes George Kliavkoff more money. I don't care that this makes Brett Yormark more money, and neither should you. If you are a fan of college football, you shouldn't care about that crap either.
That's the thing that gets me. One of the arguments that gets me, like, well, I saw something about how the playoff was going to lose out on $450 million in revenue if they had to find a new partner instead of the Rose Bowl. Oh, no. Oh, heavens. The college football playoff committee is going to lose out on revenue. How much of that revenue are you and I going to see? Here's exactly how much. Nothing. Not a damn thing.
I just, none of the arguments that this is going to be good hold any muster for me. Like the idea that, oh, wow, it's great for Kansas State and it's great for Tulane this year. I had a nice back and forth on Twitter with somebody about this. Like, it's great for Kansas State and Tulane to get in these games. They're already getting in these games. Like, the New Year's Six are a big deal. Before 1998, before the start of the BCS, the bowl games were a big freaking deal. Making one was a big freaking deal. Winning one meant you had a great year. If you could win your bowl game, that was a big deal. If you won the Gator Bowl, that meant something. It didn't mean as much as it meant if you won the Fiesta Bowl. It didn't mean as much as if you won the Rose Bowl, maybe. But if you won the Blockbuster Bowl or whatever, hey, you had a good year. And then there was an argument as to who the number 1 team was, and it made it unique among all of the sports that are in our ecosystem. It's the only one where you had to argue about it, who the best team was, where there was an argument. And some years there really wasn't. Like, was there anybody arguing anybody other than Nebraska in 1996? No. Mm-hmm. But that was the fun of it. That was what made college football unique. That was part of what made college football special. Then we had the BCS. Okay, we are elevating one game above all the rest of these. So those other games, they still meant a little bit, but the BCS was the biggest deal. The BCS National Championship game was the college football game. And most years, honestly, there's only really 2 teams that we need to see at the end of the year play it out. Like this year, this would be one of those years where we'd have a logjam, right?
A rare exception.
Yes, like if Georgia, Michigan, and TCU all win on Saturday in the BCS system, yeah, somebody's getting boned, and that sucks for them. But
2004, right?
Yeah. 2004 when it was Auburn. Auburn was the team that got left out at 13-0. But for the most part, most years, you know the 2 best teams are. You know exactly who they are. And then they played each other, and that's how the BCS worked. We decided we needed more than that. So now we got the playoff. And now we decided these 3 games are the only games that matter. And have you noticed? I'm sure you have, because I know a lot of people complain about it. The big schools, especially, kids aren't playing in the bowl games. LSU didn't send anything like a full roster to the Texas Bowl last year to play Kansas State.
It was essentially a JV team.
Alabama is going to have a lot of kids. I don't think Will Anderson's playing in a bowl game. Do you?
No.
Will Anderson's not going to play in a bowl game. If USC doesn't make the playoff, are their guys going to go play in the Rose Bowl? I don't think so.
If I'm Jordan Addison and I've already been banged up a little bit this year, I'm shaking hands with freaking Lincoln Riley. I'm never going to see him again.
The bowl games used to matter a lot. Those used to be a big deal. Then we decided only 1 game mattered. Now, currently, we've decided only 3 games really matter, and then the rest of them don't. Now, with the playoff, we are deciding that, what do we get now? We get 8 first-round games. We get 4. We get 8 to the semifinal. That's 2. That's 10. We get 11. We get 11 games, and we decide that those are the only ones that matter. Not just in the bowl ecosystem, but in your season. Those are the only games that matter anymore.
And by the way, it's not like we're getting 11 more games.
No, this is not more college football. We're just folding existing bowl games into this structure. It's not more football. You don't get the Rose Bowl and this. The Rose Bowl is wherever it happens to fall in the hierarchy. Say goodbye to whatever you remember the Rose Bowl being for all these years.
And that sucks because that's part of what makes college football great.
Special, yes.
Like why should Ohio State, okay, if you wanted to go with the 12-team bracket this year, why does Ohio State, the most, and I really believe this, soulless of all the football factory programs?
I agree with that.
Why do they, after playing precisely like 2 really tough teams all year, 3, I guess, if you want to throw in week 1, and then the biggest game of their entire season, they looked like garbage. They sucked. They folded. They had no heart, no desire. They got whooped. Why does that team deserve an extra chance to play for a title? Seriously, like what is the good argument for that other than, well, it's more big teams, more big names, more things to gamble on.
Well, maybe
dude, I don't care. I'm going to watch anyway.
Yeah.
I will watch them in the Fiesta Bowl. I'll watch them in the Rose Bowl. They don't deserve that chance.
The other argument that people love to make is, well, a playoff will mean different teams will be in the final. There won't be the usual suspects playing for the championship. I got news. Playoff does not do that. Go look at who plays for the FCS championship every year. Go look at plays for the Division III championship every year. Go look who plays for the Division II championship every year. It's the same collection of programs, and it's going to be the same thing here. You're not avoiding Georgia in the national championship game. I don't care if the playoff's 130 teams.
And by the way, who are the 2 teams that would benefit the most because they're the 2 teams that'll be on the outside looking in? Ohio State and Alabama. Yeah. Round of applause for getting some new blood in there. We got real brain. By the way, they're going to compete directly with the NFL for some of these playoff games. Good luck. Good luck.
Good luck with that.
I'm sure Tulane, Penn State will get great ratings. We've got some college basketball talk, Mitch Holthus, and more next hour on 580 Sports Talk. to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thank you for joining us. If you've missed any of the show up until this point, crosstalk, the high school whip-around, college football playoff talk, whatever it might have been, head on over to our website, 580wibw.com. Go to the podcasts tab. It's right in the middle of the website. Hover over that. Click on 580 Sports Talk, and that's where you'll find the hour-by-hour breakdown of the show from today and every day that we are on the air. As always, you can chime in and be a part of the program. Talk about anything we're chatting about on the show on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Or if you're watching on the YouTube live stream, you can comment there as well, and you can see our bright, smiling, sunshiny faces and my hair that is way too long. I think I might have to get up early and get it cut tomorrow before I come to work and before we leave for Arlington. It's getting mullety.
Yeah, you kind of, that's when the realization hits for me, when I can kind of see like hair on the back of my neck from the mirror looking straight at it. That's when I decide, yeah, it's time. It's past time.
I always know it's time because my wife says, "Are you getting a haircut soon?"
No,
yeah,
passive aggressive about it.
She would never outright tell me like, "I think your hair looks awful," but I think she and I both know that I know the cues for when it's time. It's time to cut it. I just get kind of lazy sometimes. So yeah, shaving a haircut desperately needed before the Big 12 championship game this weekend. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up here in just a moment. We've also got our Thursday Night Football preview and parlays, as we do every Thursday. And Mitch Holthus will join us at the bottom of the hour. Do want to address this from the Big O Tires text line. I appreciate everyone who chimed in when we were talking college football playoff expansion at the end of the 4 o'clock hour. Mentions, all right, well, how do you feel about the Division II and Division III playoffs? Less money. There are more games, so much for the player safety angle than the D1 structure. There's a couple different ways to look at this. One, that is still a bad format for Division II. Division III, I can't really speak to. Division II is a bad format as well, and our texter mentions that because the MIAA gets screwed. That also has a diluted playoff. Like, you can ask Jake all about this. He would be happy to fill up an entire hour talking about this. University of Indianapolis did not deserve a playoff spot over another team from the MIAA.
Right.
They got the floor wiped with them in the first round of the postseason because certain conferences are the haves versus the have-nots. Division II, different. You've got the money aspect of it. You've got less national competition as well because there's a lot of siloed scheduling, travel restrictions because of the finances and all of that. Essentially, it comes down to this. And I know in Division II, it's also different because some conferences, MIAA for one, they have more money allocated for scholarships than maybe other conferences do. Some of your East Coast leagues don't have as much money being given out to scholarships, so they can't recruit quite as well. So it's an unbalanced playing field already. That's the number one thing about the Division I FBS level. They are trying to level out a built-in unlevel playing field. The playing field will never be level in major college football because it has never been level in major college football. Ever. There's a discrepancy between Georgia and USC. USC, which has everything it could ever want, all the resources it could ever have. There's still an inherent imbalance between those programs. Look at, like, Georgia and Tulane play different sports, man. They really do.
Yeah.
And I know upsets can happen, but it's even different from basketball because we have another texter who says, what, should we go to 4 teams for March Madness? Basketball is also inherently different. There is a built-in scoring rule in basketball that neutralizes, to a degree, talent disadvantages or advantages.
The more possessions there are in the course of a game, think about it like this. All sports are games of possession. You either have the ball or you don't. The more possessions you have in the game, the more room there is for a result to come about that does not necessarily reflect the talent level, so to speak. The more variance you have, the more possessions there are. That's why you say, like, in a sport like hockey or a sport like soccer, think of how many, there are hundreds of possessions in those games, and they can end in many different ways. But that's why you have upsets, like the World Cup. That's why you've got upsets. The hockey. That's why you see on any given night, more so than any other sport, one team can beat another. Not quite as many possessions in basketball. In a college basketball game, 70 80 odd possessions in a college basketball game. Football, there's 10.
Yeah.
10 to 12 possessions per team per game. And in that short, you could try and shorten the game and try and bring a little bit of variance into it because the clock then becomes a factor. But by and large, the teams with more talent in football, the teams that run better stuff, they have the higher scoring offenses. Like, you don't see a ton of upsets. That's why the ones that we get are so special, because they're so rare. Like, there's not Appy State beating Michigan. That doesn't happen every year.
There's also just an inherent difference with basketball. In basketball, you are launching a spherical object into a small ring. Football, I don't even know what the dimensions of an end zone are. 500 something. Now I'm going to embarrass myself getting the math wrong here. End zones are huge. It is much larger than the individuals on the field. It's just an inherently different sport in that regard. But also, to be completely honest with you, like, if you're trying to find a true best team in your sport, national champion, the NCAA tournament is probably the single worst way to find it, other than just like drawing
a
names
single elimination 68 team tournament. Yeah, that's how many times have we seen a team win the national championship who was not actually the best team in college basketball? I'll give you one example: 2022. Because I think even Bill Self would tell you he did not have the best team in college basketball last year.
He did. I believe he said that on the podium. He said it's different from 2020 because in 2020, I thought we had the best team. That year got canceled. 2022, at no point in the year I don't want to say at no point, maybe early, but I don't think many people said over the balance of the season, that is the best team in college basketball.
We don't retcon the 1983 season and say, well, actually, North Carolina State was the best team all along. Or look at 1985 and say, well, Villanova, they were a secret hidden juggernaut. They were the best team all along. No, they were the team that played the best over the course of the tournament. The matchups and the breaks of the game broke their way for an entire month. Again, that's the magic of it. That's why we like it. That's why so many people watch it. But the tournament is kind of baked into the college basketball experience because we've been doing something like it. What the NIT was creation of, I don't know which came first technically, the NIT or the NCAA tournament. But
NIT, I believe.
I think the NIT came about before the NCAA tournament, but the NCAA tournament's been around since the 40s. That's baked into the experience of college basketball. It's the best way anyone could think of to crown a champion because there were so many schools and they came from all over the place regionally. So that's how that came about as the way we determined a champion. For college football, we didn't really have a way other than the polls, right? So if you want to argue that any system that crowns a champion is better than one that has sports writers and coaches and the computers crown a champion, okay, fine, I'll listen to that. Tell me why a 12-team playoff is more necessary than the simple BCS.
Because you run into, again, the same situation where teams that are not like in Division II, teams that are not deserving get in. And it's like, okay, I understand that a lot of the quote-unquote casual fan or people who only care about championships, which to me is ridiculous, but that is essentially the entire national perspective on the sport at this point. I can understand that you say, well, we get more of these superstar players and these big name programs and more eyeballs are going to watch, which I can't imagine caring about as a fan. I care about my ratings, which is either 1 or 0. I don't really care about what other people are watching, to be honest with you. Like, you want the spectacle of it, I guess, but like I don't need that. And I guess that's just a selfish
I don't need that in
opinion.
College football. All the other sports, it's baked in, right? It is what it is. And I've come to accept that over, like the course of that's how we crown a champion in the NBAs. We have these best of 7 series. And there used to be 1 best of 5, and we changed that to being a best of 7. But 4 best of 7s, you win all those, you're the champion of the NBA. 4 best of 7s, you win all those, you're the champion of the NHL. The Super Bowl, you win your 3 playoff games, and then you're the Super Bowl champion if you win the Super Bowl. Like,
it's okay to be different.
College football was cool because it was different. I guess what it really boils down to in the end was what made college football, I think, special and unique. There are so many things about it that make it special and unique. But the other thing was that you didn't have to win a playoff to feel like you had a great year. Like, the playoff structure was not the end-all, be-all of your sport. The bowl games mattered. Your rivalry games over the course of the season mattered. Your conference games mattered. Winning the conference was a big deal. Now, you don't even want to win a conference to get into the playoff. You have to play for a conference championship.
Again, it's the Ohio State example. They looked like bums in their biggest game of the year. Why should they get the benefit of that?
Yeah, why did they get another chance? They had their chance. They blew it.
No, I agree with you 100% on that.
That's the way college football used to be. If you had your big chance and you blew it, then you didn't get to be the national champions that year.
I said this on Twitter last night, and I really do believe it. This is the sports example of every fast food restaurant becoming a big gray box. Remember, Pizza Hut used to have the red roof, and McDonald's used to have its look. The golden arches,
right?
Still on the sign.
Like, yeah, you could drive down and you could know, like, hey, that's the Taco Bell.
That's Taco Bell.
That's
the
Wendy's.
Cantina look.
Yeah.
Every single fast food restaurant's a big gray box, a big ugly square. Everything in like modern architectures. Let's make this as bland as minimalism. Minimalism is jargon and a buzzword for ugly and bland. That's what minimalism is in modern society. This is like sports. Let's make it all the same. Let's make college football look just like the NFL. No, I don't want that. And you can like that. Like I am giving you, and I know you are giving us too, like our opinion on the matter. You can say, I disagree with what you have to say about this. That's entirely fine. I'm just telling you, I don't want everything to be exactly the same. It's the same reason why I disagree with everyone who says college basketball should go to quarters. No, it's different. It's fine like it is. It is different. It is okay to be different and unique.
And see, I would actually argue that college basketball would be better off if they went to the full FIBA rules and played 10-minute quarters. I actually do believe that.
I think
unironically.
I think you can adjust the way the game is timed. I think that would help. Like the MIAA, the way they time it, they do have still, but they have, I would rather have just longer breaks less often than the number of breaks we have. Although college basketball's got its other issues. And
they're all stupid long. Every timeout's a 3-minute media timeout.
Well, that's true as well. Speaking of college basketball, let's get to that as we continue on with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. There's your number one headline brought to you by Blue Dot Today. The college football playoff is expanding. Also, college basketball. Let's start with last night's action. K-State against Butler.
Rough night.
It was a rough night. Yeah, I thought K-State would come out with a little bit more. Keontae Johnson was really good.
It was really good.
Nobody else was for most of the game. You had a couple guys.
Desi Sills was great in the second. He was their whole offense down the stretch, and he provided the spark. And that's a couple of games now so far that Desi Sills has done that in the bench role, and that's exciting to see. That's a veteran guy who knows his role and has delivered an offensive spark a couple of times in the second half. But by and large, the story of that game was Kansas State didn't defend well enough, and they didn't rebound well enough. They have to do those things really, really well to pick up their offense a lot of nights, because they are going to have a lot of nights where they don't score great outside of Keontae Johnson.
Yeah.
And last night was one of those nights, and they didn't have the defense. They didn't have the rebounding to make up for that. They didn't have the play from the center position to make up for that. And all that resulted in a loss to, again, that was a team that came in with a 4-3 record, but they played Tennessee, who ask KU how good they are. They played a couple of other, they played North Carolina State, played them and got blown out. They played another Power 5. So they played a little bit of a tougher schedule, I think, early on than Kansas State has. And also, they got a veteran coach. Thad Matta knows what he's doing. You guys been to a Final Four.
He's been around for a million years.
Yeah. So a really well-coached team that had a really good game plan and took advantage of Kansas State's weaknesses, and Kansas State just didn't play well to overcome those on the road. Not a panic time, 5-alarm fire kind of a loss, but the kind of loss you would expect a team in Kansas State's situation under a first-year head coach with a bunch of new players to have.
That's essentially the gist of it for me as well. I mean, I watched the majority of the game, and I thought, sometimes you have bad nights. And when you've got a brand new roster, an entirely new roster who's never played before, you're bound to have that happen. I thought they had been free of the tournament in the Cayman Islands to not have the letdown game for long enough. They had gone a week without playing. But look, sometimes you get beat. That's essentially what it comes down to. This does not change anything about the trajectory for K-State this year. This doesn't really change how I feel about K-State. This is still a team that has one obvious go-to offensive player, a bunch of athletes. They try really hard. They're going to defend their butts off. Offense is probably going to be a struggle. And like you said earlier when we were talking to Jake, the 5 spot is going to be an issue this year. They just don't have a natural guy there who's going to fit in that spot. So without that, when you run into a guy like Manny Bates, who's playing the game of his life, sometimes you just get beat. So doesn't change my thought on K-State at all. Next up for K-State, who are they playing this weekend? I do not remember, and I got to pull it up now. K-State's next game, they are taking on, they got Wichita State. That's right. They'll take on Wichita State coming up Saturday night. That's an 8 o'clock tip-off. If you are a soccer and K-State fan, you're going to have a wild Saturday.
USA Netherlands right into K-State in the Big 12 championship game. A chance to catch your breath, and then K-State basketball.
Or possibly not catch your breath if things don't go well.
Yeah, or possibly not if they do.
Well, yeah, that's also true. You might be blitzed by the time you get to the nightcap. Kansas State versus Wichita State. KU is in action tonight, taking on Seton Hall.
Yeah.
Hawks are favored by 10.5. That's moved a lot. It opened at 7.5. A lot of the wise guys liked KU. Since then, a lot of money has come in on Seton Hall, so that tells you that's right about the equilibrium point betting-wise. I think KU should have enough to win tonight. Maybe not like a blowout, but I think should be able to get a multiple possession win. Seton Hall's a good defensive team. First year with Shaheen Holloway, who, of course, played there, was the coach of St. Peter's that went on that incredible run last year. They play good on-ball defense. They also turn the ball over a ton. What is KU really good at offensively? Better than in the half court?
Transition.
Yeah. I think that's what's going to decide this game. KU, though, this is another opportunity. You've got to have more guys than just Jalen Wilson score the ball consistently. Now, the nice thing about the Texas Southern game, maybe that was an opportunity for Grady Dick, who had 15 points, or MJ Rice, for certain. He had 19 points off the bench. Maybe it's an opportunity for one of those guys to gain a little bit more day-to-day, game-to-game, week-to-week confidence in scoring the ball. Hopefully that helps. This is a different beast than Texas Southern, though. Bill Self said as much in the postgame, like, hey, look, they tried really hard, but this is Texas Southern. Like, this is not going to be what we face even on Thursday. This is not what we are going to face in Big 12 play. So you need someone else to step up and score the ball regularly, but I think KU is going to have enough offensive firepower in the transition game to win semi-comfortably tonight. I would hope so anyway.
I've got one quick headline and a text I want to get to in the Big O Tires text line. My one quick Blue Dot of Kansas headline. The Kansas City Royals hired a pitching coach today. Brian Sweeney, former big league pitcher, most recently on the staff with the Cleveland Guardians, is named the Royals pitching coach today. They also named Jose Alguacil their infield coach. But Brian Sweeney's a bigger deal because we've been wondering how the Royals are going to change their pitching development organizationally and at the big league level. Brian Sweeney, first and foremost, is not Cal Eldred.
That's a win.
Second, he comes from the Cleveland Guardians, who have done a whale of a job developing young pitching, particularly over recent seasons. He has been on Cleveland's coaching staff since 2018, has served as the bullpen coach for the last 3 years. John Sherman obviously had some familiarity with him as a previous minority owner in the Cleveland baseball franchise. Sweeney pitched in the major leagues from 2003 to 2006 and also in 2010, also pitched for a while in Japan. 48 years old. Hear lots of great things about him. I think it's going to be a really, really nice hire for the Royals.
Real quick because we do have to get to a break, but before you get to the text you wanted to get to on the Big O Tires text line, one other real quick headline. This was just reported earlier. This was made public from the folks at College Game Day. Some of the things you can expect for Game Day from Arlington coming up this week. Non-related to the Big 12 championship game, they're going to do something on Stetson Bennett. They're going to do something on a team manager for Michigan as well. As for the Big 12 championship game, there will be a conversation with Sonny Dykes, Big 12 Coach of the Year. They will have player diary videos from Deuce Vaughn and from Kendre Miller of K-State and TCU, respectively. That's probably going to be pretty cool. And then they're also going to have Darren Sproles and LaDainian Tomlinson on site to join the game day crew with insights on the matchup. And they will also have an interview pregame during the show with Chris Kleiman. So some cool stuff for K-State and TCU.
Just want to get to this real quick before we hit a break. From the 785, a text, and it was directed to me, so I felt like it was appropriate to respond. Sorry, Dan, college players should not get paid. Players should be able to go pro at 18, but you don't go to college to get paid. I will simply ask you this question in return, texter from the 785. Why is it that college athletes are the only class of college students who don't deserve to get paid for their skills and their labor, particularly when their skills and their labor make a bunch of other people millions and millions of dollars. Why is it that college athletes are the only ones that don't get paid for their work, for their labor, for their skill, where if you're a music student, you can release an album, you can get paid. If you're a chemistry student, you can write something scholarly and get paid for that. If you discover something, you can get paid for that. If you're any other college student, you can work a job that makes somebody else money and you get a cut of that. Why don't college athletes get a cut? Morally, how do you defend that?
I do agree, though. Not football players. They should not allow 18-year-olds to go to the NFL. That would be very bad. Basketball, I agree with that, though.
They should have let one 18-year-old go to the NFL, and his name was Adrian Peterson.
Okay, fair enough. I can allow that. We've got to take a timeout. When we come back, though, we'll get to you our Thursday Night Football preview coming up on 580 Sports Talk. .29 on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thursday Night Football coming up tonight. Bills-Patriots, rivalry game in the AFC East. The line here has shifted a little bit. I need to pull up the most recent one. I had it down as Bills -4 on the road. Then I saw it had moved back to 3.5. And I can tell you right now, pulling up the FanDuel Sportsbook, it is still Bills -3.5.
Yeah, I think it jumped this morning and has been sitting there most of the day.
Does that change how you view this one?
It does not. I still think the Bills are the better team and should win, even with concerns over Josh Allen's recent run of form. I think the Bills should be able to win this game on the road. And you can start NFL 13 off, week 13 off, right, with a no-sweat same-game parlay from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or already have an account. You get free bets back if your Thursday night same-game parlay doesn't hit. Same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. For example, what did you have tonight, Brendan?
My parlay for tonight, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not love the picks tonight. It didn't feel great off the hand. I'm going to go with the Bills alternate spread. I took a point off. I went -2.5. So cover the significant number at 3. That's -170. I took the first half under 21.5 points. That's -110. Hunter Henry, 25+ receiving yards. That was -118. $10 bet would win you $45.95. Or if you bet $100 and you win, you'd win $459.
So I like the Bills on the money line tonight. That was minus 194 on the money line when I grabbed it. I'm also going with the alternate under 45.5.
I like that.
That's at minus 146. And Ramondre Stevenson, 40-plus receiving yards with the prop. They are throwing to him a ton. He had 10 targets last week and caught 9 of them.
Interesting.
So a lot of targets of late for Ramondre Stevenson. 40-plus receiving yards, minus 102. You all add all that up, that's plus 425. $10 bet would win you $42.50. $100 bet would win you $425. You can build your own or choose from one of the popular SGPs pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. However you want to play, you can bet the NFL Thursday night with a no-sweat same-game parlay. Just sign up with promo code Lucero if you don't already have an account. If you already have FanDuel, you're all set. You can just sign in to see what you've got and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 and present in Kansas. Parlay must have 3 or more legs. Minimum $1 bet required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max free bet $5. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. By the way, to the texter on the Big O Tires text line who asked about the weather tonight in Foxborough, cold. No rain, not much wind, but very cold.
Very cold. We are running out of Thursday night football games, including tonight. We've got 5 more this year.
We're not running out of them fast enough, according to Al Michaels.
Well, that's certainly true. I will say, I think the matchups the rest of the way look like they could be intriguing, except for next week. This week, there's some interest. Next week is Raiders-Rams. No, thank you. That's very bad. That is bad. Week 15, though, 49ers-Seahawks. There's could be a lot riding on that game.
Yeah, there could be a whole lot riding on that. That could be for the division.
Week 16, this sounds like it would be awful. It's Jaguars-Jets. Jets are playing for playoff positioning. The Jags are kind of entertaining to watch, and they're not awful. They're only 4-7 right now, but they're certainly not awful. They've only lost 1 game by more than 1 score. And then the last one of the year, Week 17, Cowboys-Titans. That's not a bad Thursday night schedule to round out the year. I mean, we've said that for a lot of the year, and it doesn't necessarily work out, but hey, we'll hope for the best. Right now, though, we've got to take a break. Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, will join us next on 580 Sports Talk. up on Sunday, we've got one of the biggest games left on the entire NFL schedule when the Chiefs take on the Cincinnati Bengals, their nemesis from last year. And to talk all about that matchup and all things Kansas City Chiefs, we welcome in the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, to the program, brought to you, as always, by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. First things first, Mitch, how was your Thanksgiving holiday?
No, let's go first things first. Didn't you do the Inman St. Mary's game?
Yes, indeed. We were there in Hayes for that game on this past Saturday.
And who was on the call? You and who was helping you?
It was myself on the play-by-play, and Greg Akagi was doing the color.
Yeah, that's great. Greg did the color. It was excellent. I was gonna made a note to tell you what a terrific job you guys did, and you were awesome on that call. I mean, that's one of the more epic state title games in history in the state of Kansas. You did a fabulous job with that, and reminded me of, go way back, when Smith Center lost to Silver Lake 35-34 on that same field, because your call was terrific. But through that game, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is very similar to that game. But for Inman to go in for a 2-possession lead and fumble at the one, and St. Mary's to go 99 yards, is just an amazing finish to what was a really good year in 1A football in the state.
It was a tremendous year of that, and thank you, Mitch. That truly means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. I know Greg does as well, and it was, as you know as well as anyone, when you've got a game with that much action and that much excitement, it makes it that much more fun and that much easier to call. But yeah, it was a trip, and I really do appreciate the kind words there. I did want to tell you, by the way, because we spoke last week right before the holiday, we were talking about the Patrick Mahomes completion percentage stat and how he's repeated it year after year. So I talked to my good
10th. It was to the 10th of a decimal point.
That's what, 66.3, correct?
Right.
So
that's moved this year some, but hey, he's still hovering right in there.
We got plenty of time.
The fact that he was 60. Yeah, we do 66.3 when we talked, and the year before was 66.3, and the year before it was 66.3. So the model of consistency.
So I spoke to my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. My best friend works for Stats Perform, and I asked him, hey, do you know, is there a way that you can run the numbers on this and find out the probability of that happening? And he told me, well, I can't really find out a probability of it, but I can tell you that it's probably never happened before, and it might not ever happen again. So we don't have the specifics, Mitch, but my numbers guy can tell us that's pretty rare air one way or the other that Patrick Mahomes is in with his accuracy.
Well, and he just continues to do things every week. And for his win last week over the Rams, to have 59 wins in his first 74 games, the winningest quarterback in NFL history in his first 75 games. Some quarterbacks down through the years in the NFL can compile stats, but the wins don't always follow the stats. Phillip Rivers comes to mind. And then there's quarterbacks who win games but don't have the stats. So Troy Aikman comes into play when you look at his stats. They just don't measure up to a lot of the quarterbacks in the league. And then you get Mahomes, who has the stats and the wins. And that's why his 59th win was noteworthy, because he's got, right now, through 74 games, he is number one in NFL history in all of the stats, all of most of the quarterback measuring stats, the base subjects, if you will. I mean, receiving yards, touchdowns, touchdown to INT ratio, fewest interceptions, tied with Aaron Rodgers. But he's first. But then to have the most wins as well just tells you where Patrick Mahomes is historically in relation to the 103-year history of this league.
And that gives you, too, some interesting and extremely unique context, I think, when you look at a game like this past Sunday and the win over the Rams. We talked about it on our show on Monday that, yeah, I mean, it was a Chiefs win. They won by 16 points, and they, took care of business. Maybe need to work on the red zone a little bit. But, hey, in general, that's just kind of what the Chiefs do. They just beat the defending Super Bowl champions, who I know are banged up. I understand that. But they beat the defending Super Bowl champions 26-10, and it was just, oh, ho-hum, that's another Chiefs game. It's kind of a unique way to put it into perspective, though, Mitch, that has become the norm with this quarterback and with this head coach and with this franchise over the last 5-6 years.
And the fact that they played, now they got back-to-back, the two teams that played in Super Bowl 56. They played the team that won Super Bowl 55. they play the team they beat in Super Bowl 54. I mean, all that's been involved in this schedule, and the Chiefs are sitting here at 9-2. I might have given you the stat last week. The margin of victory in the NFL this year is the slightest since 1932. Now, why I respond to your thought there is the fact that Andy Reid even brought it up this week, the fact that this Chiefs team continues to stay focused when they're playing a Rams team that's now the worst team in NFL history after a Super Bowl championship season in a non-strike year. This Chiefs team has been able to keep its focus all through camp, all through the season thus far. And the fact that you must do that in the National Football League, especially this year, where it's the slightest of margins in nearly every game.
Our guest is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us every Thursday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk, thanks to our friends at Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, it is Bengals week, and we have talked about it. It has come up in previous weeks that this is one that has been circled on the calendar for quite some time for the Chiefs, as going back to that fateful AFC Championship game last year. The Chiefs have been looking forward to this one. Have you gotten the sense that, although certainly publicly it's just another game line usually gets followed in a situation like this one, have you gotten the sense that there's a little something personal to this one for those Chiefs players who remember how painful that AFC Championship game was?
I don't think, Dan, it's personal. I wouldn't describe it that way, but let's say that the awareness is there. I do sense that. It's almost like a playoff game feeling in the practice facility this week. And I truthfully think that it was a big part of how this season has started 9-2 because of the way that this team has superbly prepared for the 2022 season. And it's been a positive reaction to that loss. So yes, there is a keen awareness. I would describe it that way around this team. Coaches, players, everybody in the organization, they know it's Cincinnati week. If you go, we posted it now, the Defending the Kingdom podcast, which is entitled precisely that. It's Cincinnati week. So you can listen to that and kind of get a feel for what's going on around here.
The Bengals come in playing some very good football and poised to get two top-tier offensive weapons back with returns from injury if they do happen, and it looks like, by all accounts, they are likely to, of wide receiver Jamar Chase and running back Joe Mixon. How is this Cincinnati offense different than the attack that the Chiefs saw last year, and what must the Chiefs do with some of their new personnel from last year to match up better with Burrow and company?
Not much. There's not much difference. The only difference would be the offensive line is a little bit better, even though Burrow has been sacked 33 times this year. Only two quarterbacks have been sacked more, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. So even though the Bengals spent a lot of money, they got Kappa from Tampa Bay, they got La'el Collins from the Cowboys, they're still giving up a bunch of sacks. Now, the rest of it looks about the same. And when you say it looks about the same, that's being a compliment. I think their 0-2 start, they just got out of people's consciousness who cover the NFL, because it's been like, oh, Bills, Chiefs, Chiefs, Bills, Bills, Chiefs. Oh, wait a minute, the Dolphins and maybe the Ravens. Whoa, what about the Bengals? The Bengals are sitting here at 7-4. They've won 7 of the last 9 games, 5 of the last 6. They've had 30 points or more in 4 of the last 6. But nobody's talking about them because they have the 0-2 start. Well, they're sitting right here. If they get hot like they did last year, they can play for the 1 seed. And with, I don't know about Lamar Jackson's injury status, but it doesn't look great for the Ravens. The Bengals could close in on another division title. So why aren't we talking about the Bengals? We should be, because they are hot, to your point, and getting Jamar Chase and getting Mixon back is a big deal. But if they've had T. Higgins playing well, Samaje Perine, you can go right down the line. Hayden Hurst has been a good addition. That's something different from last January. But this is a really good team that's right there in all those discussion with all the other AFC teams.
The Chiefs, of course, infamously unable to generate much on offense in the second half of that AFC Championship game. Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, maybe the best at making halftime adjustments in the league, and he made a whale of one in that AFC title game. How are the Chiefs now better equipped, or differently equipped anyway, to attack some of the things that they expect to see from the Bengals on Sunday?
Well, I love it when you guys walk me right into the nugget of the night, or nuggets of the night, but you've just nailed it. All right, so let's go back to the second half of the Cincinnati game in the AFC Championship game. The now infamous dropping 8 defenders into coverage happened on 10 of the 22 dropbacks for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the second half, after just 5 of 21 in the first half. Okay. To your point about them, the Bengals making adjustments, not just in that game, but even this year, the Bengals are tied for 5th in second half points allowed. They're only giving up 8 points per game in the second half this season on an average, which is spectacular. And in that, the 2 games last year, take the regular season game and the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs only scored 6 points total in the second half in those 2 games. Now, what's different about the Chiefs? I would tell you the Chiefs are way more different than the Bengals of the January games, because Patrick Mahomes this year, and it's not been publicized, but in 3 or fewer dropbacks, he has faced it 68 times this year in 11 games. So other people have watched the Cincinnati tape. It hasn't been as publicized. You're only getting a 3-man rush. This year, Patrick Mahomes, in those 68 dropbacks, is averaging 77% completion percentage, has 6 touchdown passes and 1 pick, and an 8.8 yards per game average. So when Brother Lou turns on the video this year, what he is seeing is a Patrick Mahomes like, oh, you want to take a 5-yard hitch? Yeah, we'll take it. And some of that's going to Juju Smith-Schuster, who you guys know, that played for the Steelers in your division. And if he catches it at 5, he may go for 45, which he did against the Bills. The Chiefs are much different and much more prepared to play against the, let's rush 3, drop back 8, than they were in the second half of either game in January against the Bengals.
We're talking to the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, for a couple more minutes here on 580 Sports Talk as we look ahead to Chiefs-Bengals this weekend. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends at both Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. For the Chiefs defense, Mitch, we ran through some numbers on Joe Burrow earlier on in the show. They were courtesy of ESPN. I think they showed this on their NFL Live show this week, that when Joe Burrow of the Bengals gets 2.5 seconds or more in the pocket, over the last 2 years, he's the best in the NFL at completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, and percentage of the time they convert for a first down. Obviously, the Bengals offensive line, this has become pretty well known, they don't always give him 2.5 seconds in the pocket, but when he does get that time, he's able to really make some magic happen. So all that being said, and I'll leave you with a pretty basic question here, how vital is it that the Chiefs win up front in this matchup?
The fact that Burrow's 7-1 this year, if he's sacked 3 or less. Anything beyond that, which it's been 3 times, he's lost all 3.
Wow.
So that gives you, that's your question answered right there. If the Chiefs can get to him, it's just amazing to me how many hits Joe Burrow has taken. Just take sacks. This is disallowing quarterback hits, right? Just sacks. Since his ACL surgery in December of 2020, he has been sacked, Burrow, 103 times. 51 times last year, most in the league. 19 times in the playoffs. The Chiefs got him once. That means it was 18 times in the other playoff games. This year, 33 sacks in 11 weeks. So that's right at that average. That's 3.3 sacks per game, if my math is right, or 3 sacks a game ends up being 33. So he's right at 3.0 sacks per game. Well, if you get more hits on him, or right at that threshold of beyond 3, he hasn't won a game. So, yes, I mean, it's enormous. But the Chiefs now are more, if you look at what they've done, they're able to complete those games and get more sacks. In the fact that they're one of the top 5 teams in the league at getting sacks this year. vastly different than a year ago. So to me, the athleticism of the Chiefs defense, younger guys in the secondary, faster, quicker linebackers, gives the Chiefs more of a chance to win their share of the snaps. You're not going to win them all. Cincinnati's offense is too good, and they've got too many good players. But if you win most of those battles and you win some of the key battles and you steal a possession, don't forget the Chiefs had a 21-3 lead in the AFC Championship game and led 3 different times by 14 points in the game earlier in January in the regular season. If you start to win a few on defense, win a series, win a few plays, steal a possession, the Bears do turn it over some more than you would think. And that's part of the reason they're 7-4. But yeah, you've got a better shot at winning enough in the individual battles against their Cincinnati's offense.
Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He will be on the call along with the rest of the Chiefs broadcast crew coming up on Sunday for what is going to be a massive game with tons of AFC implications, Chiefs versus Bengals. He joins us every Thursday during the Chiefs season, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azure Credit Union. Mitch, great to talk to you. Really looking forward to this game on Sunday, and well, we'll see. We'll see by coming up on Sunday, late afternoon, early evening, if this winning streak continues for game number 6.
Again, just chew on that drop in 8 that Mahomes is about 77% and 6 touchdowns. I'm curious to see what Cincinnati will do in this game in that regard, because they've got to see that the Chiefs, they're going to be going, whoa, they're way different than they were in January, because they are. And again, I would give you applause for an outstanding job in arguably probably tied for the best 1A, 2A state title game of all time in Hays, Kansas. So well done, my friend.
Well, thank you so much, Mitch. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
And St. Mary's is coached by Smith Center native, right?
That is correct.
Former Smith Center state champion with Jake coaching that team. And he won the state championship his senior year at Smith Center. And who'd they beat? St. Mary's.
How about that? Nuggets for the Chiefs and nuggets for high school football. How about that? Mitch, we appreciate the time, man.
Jake Shank, baby, St. Mary's Bears and Smith Center.
Absolutely love it. That is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. We appreciate Mitch jumping in, and that's probably the coolest compliment I've ever gotten in my entire life. Wow, that was absolutely awesome. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Time to wrap up this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word, Dan.
Final word for me today. Chiefs-Bengals are getting spicy, and I love it. But I think, honestly, this one means a little bit more for the Chiefs, and I love the comparison you made to Tampa Bay week, or Jake, I think, made that comparison. We had him on for Crosstalk in the 4 o'clock hour. The comparison to Tampa Bay week, where they maybe won't say it publicly, but this one sticks in their craw a little bit, having lost that AFC title game last year. And I expect this to be a very, very motivated Chiefs team heading into Sunday.
Final word for me, KU in action against Seton Hall tonight. One, I think the Jayhawks are going to end up coming away with the victory. But also, if you're going to the game, bring a new teddy bear. It is the Toys for Tots teddy bear toss at Allen Fieldhouse tonight. During halftime, you're going to have everybody in the crowd who has one throw them onto the court. They're going to collect them for needy kids. It is obviously an awesome thing. A lot of programs do it. It's KU's tonight. It's coming up at halftime. So if you're making the trip to Lawrence for the game, 8 o'clock tip-off, make sure you bring a teddy bear so you can help out some kids in need this Christmas season. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon, the first day of December. We'll be back starting at 3 o'clock tomorrow to get you ready for Chiefs-Bengals this weekend. We'll preview the Big 12 championship game and so much more. That's coming up tomorrow starting at 3. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll talk to you then on another edition of 580 Sports Talk.